Hello, everybody, and welcome along to our fortnightly Thursday meeting. I'm John Hindhaugh. This is the Michelin Countdown to Green. We're at our fourth different circuit on the IMSA travels in the virtual world, at least. And for this, we've come to a track that came into being in 1955. We're at America's National Park of Speed in just outside Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It is, of course, Road America. Hello, everybody, and welcome along. Nick Damon and Ben Constantinos joining me for another exciting couple of hours of racing. We've got qualifying coming up in a few moments' time. Let's bring the boys in straight away. I know, Nick, you have been practicing this circuit. It's one of the longer tracks. In fact, it is now the longest track that IMSA races on in the real world, at a tad over 4 miles around, with 14 corners and a nice parkland feel to it. Stringing a lap together here, particularly in qualifying, it's not going to be easy.
No, it's another cracking road course in America to go with. I think now 5 other road courses. But basically, I'm now beginning to think America has the best road courses, which is bad.
Well, you're right.
First to say.
You're absolutely right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous track. It's incredibly quick with a lot of very heavy stops that are really important, and the most fantastic sweeping corner called Carousel between 9 and 10, which if you get it right and your tyres are warm, you're effectively accelerating for 15 seconds consistently right round the corner through 11, which you take flat out, hitting a virtual 170 miles an hour as you sweep down to the very sharp Canada corner. So it is a cracking circuit, but once again, there is no room for error. There's no runoff. You go off track, it's nearly always cambered away from you. And some of the track is quite narrow, especially for 2 or 3, or as we've seen, 4 GTE cars.
Yeah, and down, certainly out the carousel, through the kink, one of the fastest corners on a road course in the US. There's very little runoff. Catherine Legg, when she had a nasty shunt a few years ago in an open wheeler down there, and the last time we were there last year in the real world, the Porsche race in particular, looked more like the scrapyard down there. Out of Canada corner, up Thunder Valley, which, if you're watching the pictures, is where the track, where we're looking at the track now, just over the top of the brow. Used to be a bridge there, and through the Bill Mitchell bend, the little kink at 13, and then up through 14, and heading quite steeply uphill for the run to the race line. The Briggs and Stratton sign, which is between effectively turn 2, which isn't a turn, you just go flat through it. I remember driving a super truck down there, and we had to go either side of it because it was so tall. We were worried it might clip the sign. Ben Constantinos is joining us here tonight as well. Ben, you've been browsing through the stats and the ratings of some of the drivers. We've got some new names and some big names, and not just in the length of the names, although Brad Keselowski is quite big. He'll be driving the number 2 Team Penske Ford GT, coming in from NASCAR. Robert Wickens makes his debut in the IMSA series for Porsche, and a couple of other people down through the list who are making their debuts as well. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing some of these really big iRacing names now in this IMSA series. Someone like Agustin Campanino, a man that perhaps you would not have come across that much, 4-time touring car champion in Argentina, but he actually has a better I rating, the rating of your performance in iRacing. He's a better performance than Aykan Guven, who we saw last time out, who was classed as an alien when he came in with a rating of 7,500. That rating is now up to 8,000.
Wow.
But Augustine is 8,300.
Oh,
so
really?
Those guys are huge in comparison to say someone who like El Bamba, who's having his first race on iRacing after a month of practice. You start with a base rating of 1,500.
Hello to Rod Skanes, who's listening in not a million miles from where I'm standing at the moment, presumably watching as well. Agustin Canapino, Argentinian driver, has actually raced in IMSA for Juncos Racing with a Cadillac, so he's no stranger to real world racing, as Ben was saying, very well known back in his native Argentina, and has been racing in the digital Nürburgring series along with Alex Arana, who is another really top flight iRacing driver, the man from just outside of Bilbao. And I was talking to Alex about Agustin, and he said, quite simply, Nick, the guy picks it up really quickly. He's been tremendously impressed. It's not always the easiest thing to do, to transfer the skills from the real world to the virtual world, but some of these drivers do it, and the ones who can do it seem to be able to do it very well.
Yeah, I think it's we've seen an interesting conundrum. We've seen some very good drivers who've been not particularly effective in this transfer. Even guys who've done many years working for factories and therefore worked in the proper performance sims you see in the big racing teams. It's a different skill. It's a different ability. It has a huge amount of overlap, as we said before, with the real world racing. But you are effectively racing with 50% of your senses turned off or not getting any information they need to. So you have to be able to find ways of compensating for your lack of your internal gyroscope. And not everyone can do it. But some guys, as you say, pick it up, run it, it immediately hits with them. And there's not something to go, young people can do it, older drivers can't. It's just people who have that ability to take on the cess with a more limited senses set and go quickly. And it's a really interesting way to see the drivers coming along. And also the good thing about this series, John, is we're seeing a number of drivers improving as they go. Yeah,
absolutely agree with that. Michelin counts down to green. Watch out for the Michelin livery, brand new Michelin livery on the Risi Competizione Ferraris. They had a big family photo in the real world recently with all of their older cars, and they say they are going to come back into racing full time soon. So we hopefully we'll see them at Le Mans at the back end of this season, the end of the WEC season. They have got an entry for the Le Mans 24 hours. And Matt Griffin, who again isn't too far away from where I'm standing right now, he's in the 62 car for Risi this weekend. Excuse me. That doesn't bode well, does it? Let's have a look at the Porsche keys to the race, and the boys can talk through them for us a little bit, so I can grab a glass of water. Get smart early. Nick Damon, we've said this before, but practicing qualifying, get as far up the grid as you can, and those early laps are going to be crucial.
Yeah, because not everyone can do a Philip Eng as he did at Mid-Ohio, going from 46 to about third. Yeah, it really is absolutely key to qualify as high as you can. Everyone's in the same class. You're racing against everybody, all 50 cars. And it is difficult. Even with a rolling start, it is very, very complex, very difficult to get a clean run unless you're near the front. And then trying to overtake, I said, on these narrow tarmac strips we see in the States, even harder. So very, very important to get that good qualifying in. And the thing to remember is when you qualify, you have to do the reason we see guys further back is because you go slightly off track, you basically lose your time. So Correct. It's not like you don't have a chance to make it up again. It's not like
track
I've
limits
lost.
Effectively.
Yeah, but it's policed in an extreme way. If you're 1 inch over, that's it. The time's gone.
And it's a long run down to the first corner here, so there will be some argy and, if you will, bargy when that comes down to it. Ben, you bend it, you bought it. I don't mean that we're going to ask people to put money on the table here, but if you've got damage, any chance of a decent result is probably going to be gone.
Yeah, in iRacing, if you do damage the car, it has a huge effect on the way the car feels and the way the car handles, and so you do tend to lose certainly quite a bit of handling. Damage the front, you lose the front end, you have understeer. Very weirdly, very easy to damage the rear wing. That will give you a lot of oversteer, and through these fast sweeping corners, something you definitely do not want to have is a car breaking away mid-corner. So you really have to be careful. You can get the car repaired if you go into the pits. I need to check it to see if they've got fast repairs on this. Yes, they do. So each driver will be given a fast repair. Only one, but it does mean if you have a lot of damage, you can go into the pits, if you can drive it into the pits, and you can be instantly repaired and go straight back out again. If you do need to be towed back to the pits because it's too damaged, that'll take 2 minutes to get you back into the pits. And once you've used that fast repair once, there isn't another.
That's it. Yeah, it's gone. Speed is king around here, Nick Damon. You mentioned how quick you're going around the back of the circuit, coming out the carousel, absolutely flat. Even in a road car, it's very, very quick through there. I seem to remember the first time that Eve went there, she managed to get a ride in one of the Porsche Cayenne GTS safety cars, and that was pretty impressive through there. I've driven a couple of tasty street cars around here. The question then is, if you need that speed, Nick, do you trim the cars right out? But the compromise then is, you don't have the feel of the car through the quicker corners. And I was talking to Matt Griffin about his setup on the Ricci Ferrari last week, and that's exactly the compromise he's looking at the moment. Does he get a comfortable car, or does he need a quick car?
Well, the thing is, it is that compromise you're going to need to go. There are 3 long straights from turn 14 all the way past start finish to turn 1 with a relatively sharp turn 1. Then you go around turn 3, you sweep down the hill 3, 4 into 5, which is a very heavy stop,
if you will, behind the pits. Yeah,
which is a very heavy stop into turn 5. And then, of course, you have the build up of speed round the carousel 9, 10 through the super fast kink and down what's called Kettle Bottom, which is effectively a very, very gentle sweep. And then a very hard stop in Canada Corner again. So you do need to get maximum speed in all those. Then, really unfortunately, you've got a very twisty section in 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 where you need a lot of downforce keeping the car on the road. So it is one of those tracks where you might go, yes, it's got a very, very high average speed, but as ever, a lot of that average speed is made up by speed in the corners. So I think they will end up with a compromise that's probably, oddly, not that far away from Mid-Ohio and certainly further away from Sebring.
Turn 1 can be, you've got to get that nailed on. That used to be pretty much flat in the old LMP2 days when we had the ARX Acuras and the LMP2 Porsches back in the day. Don't be a fool, or don't be a fuel at least. It's uphill from Canada Corner all the way to the start finish line, and the pit entrance is just on the right hand side, about 100 metres or so out of turn 14, the final corner. Ben, you cannot afford to get caught short here. You're not going to be able to coast into the pit lane.
Absolutely not, and very important to get your fuel numbers correct. The more you sit in the pits refueling, the longer you will spend in that pit stop. So there will be, all these drivers will have kind of people giving them advice, whether it be engineers or other iRacing drivers. I know in the case of BMW, they use professional iRacing drivers to help them out with strategy. But ultimately, the drivers still have to control what they are doing when they get into pits. They have to add or take away fuel. You won't need, I don't think, 2 full fuel lanes. No. So it will be a balance as to how much you use and then how much you put in.
Nick, we've seen, and the tyres, we always have it in the Porsche keys to the race. It's become a bit of a trademark for us down through the years. But we have seen at the different circuits in the races that we've had so far, a distinctively different tyre degradation. Although the tyres have been effectively the same virtual compound at every race, certainly at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, our the one before the last race that we had, the drop off on the tyres was quite noticeable. It wasn't quite as bad at Mid-Ohio for the last race. At Sebring, it was non-existent. We saw people going the whole race. What do you reckon? What are you getting the feel for the tyre wear here?
I think that it's from my very basic testing, and that involves, unfortunately, that was on the baseline setup, so it wasn't actually a setup that was being tuned for the track. It is more abrasive than Mid-Ohio, right. But they made Mid-Ohio relatively easily, so it's the case of it is how much more it is. So I don't, you're absolutely right, John. Laguna Seca, there were people running out. Nicky Katzberg ran out of tyres,
yes.
Entirely. And
Shane van Gisbergen did a super job in holding on to his tyres, which he did the gamble at Mid-Ohio with the early stop as well. Now the competition yellow came out and sort of negated that as well. Qualifying is getting underway, so we're going to find out at least who's got the first part of our Porsche keys to the race, getting smart early and getting the position. 90 seconds to qualifying. You're tuned to our 4th event of this IMSA iRacing Pro Series. It is the WeatherTech Presents IMSA Racing at Road America. Hello, if you're watching or listening, wherever you are around the world, at IMSA Radio on Twitter, please. at IMSA Radio. That's how you get in touch with us. Hello to CXC Simulations. Joel Miller is in the 82 Risi competition Ferrari, and he has some live audio over there. There's the guys working hard at iRacing. Hello, Drew. Hello, the rest of the team. They've been working their socks off. Cisco and Alex back again with us this week. They've been working their socks off the last few weeks. They look a little more rested than the last time we spoke to them a couple of weeks ago. I think things have calmed down for at least a couple of days. And they might have even got some sleep in their own beds. I kept telling them earlier on in this virtual season that sleeping on the floor in the office doesn't count as real sleep. And Drew's just told me in my ear that he got a full 8 hours last night. Thank you guys for all the hard work that you and the rest of the team are putting in there at Boston, Massachusetts. So we are underway for qualifying, and as soon as we start getting some laps coming in, we'll bring that to you, and we should be able to see some of the qualifying as well and pick out one or two of the drivers. Hopefully be able to show you that new mission and livery for the Risi Competizione cars, and also some of the new drivers. Men to watch out for: Nick Damon. BMW have swept the board so far. I think there's only been one podium position that wasn't a BMW in the 4 races that we've had so far, in the 3 races, that we've had so far. The Fords have certainly had the pace, and in certain conditions the Porsches have had as well, but they seem to be a lot more edgy, and frankly the drivers just haven't delivered. Yeah,
I think it's been a case where we've seen the Fords promising much, especially early on, then dropping off. Not always their own fault. There was a huge kerfuffle at Mid-Ohio, which took out about 4 of them in one go. Knocked them back. And I think they have been improving steadily throughout, but it has been a race series dominated by BMW, obviously initially by Katzberg and Spengler, and Katzberg just leads championship. But possibly the fastest driver, though his results aren't really showing it, is Shane van Gisbergen in the Aim Vasser Sullivan BMW. But I'm sure Rodrigo Luca will be looking to get those Fords up on the podium and just get what it must feel a little bit of luck, a little bit of a clean run, and see that with the car and the fast car. And it is, of course, a fast track, so the slightly more error efficient Ford may have an advantage here. You know, the luck has to change. I mean, they've got 3 more rounds for it to happen, but they would obviously like to do it today.
Yeah, Rodrigo's in the 47 Precision Performance Motorsports Ford. A quick look at Townsend Bell a moment or two ago. Big sideways slide through turn 5 for the number 26. That is Philipp Eng for Team BMW Austria. Philipp in that very classy red and white looking car. Absolutely Tokyo Drift style going down to turn 5. Going down to turn 7, 8 that is, wasn't it, before the carousel. Go ahead, Ben.
I've been watching Nicky Katzberg doing exactly the same thing, so I think this is a BMW technique to get those tyres up to temperature with only 2 flying laps to do it in. They really want to get those tyres up before the first flying lap, so they've got optimum temperature for both. And Katzberg's doing the exact same thing as Philipp Eng, throwing it sideways, almost on the handbrake by the looks of things, and drifting into the corners.
Which is quite extraordinary when you think about it. But they don't have to worry, Ben, about making the tyres last here. They want to get the tyres up to temp as quickly as possible, and then try and put a fast lap in. That's Townsend Bell down at the bottom of the hill at turn 3. Now on that middle straight I was talking about, a bit of overcast here at the moment underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge. It's not made of cheese, the bridge. I just need to say that. It's only advertising cheese. We're right in the middle of Wisconsin dairy country here, north of Milwaukee. Normally fly into Chicago O'Hare and then take a 2.5, 3 hour drive. Robert Wickens with us in the Pfaff Porsche with the Lumberjack colours on it and the Motul branding on the side. First time in IMSA competition for Robert, recovering from that injury that he sustained last year, and that means that he is using a hand brake which he pushes away from him instead of a foot brake. His acceleration and his gear change are all on the steering wheel, but he's using an analog brake lever to slow the car down. Extraordinary stuff from him at the moment. Still waiting for some times to come in. It's a long opening lap, so Ben's keeping an eye on that. Have you got some times? Off. That's Townsend Bell that went off. Damage. And there is the Andy Blackmore designed Risi Competizione machine of Joel Miller in the 82. Very distinctive headlight arrangement on the Ferraris, and that's the Michelin branding on that car. So unused to seeing the Giuseppe Risi cars in anything other than Ferrari red, Nick.
It's very distinctive when it comes behind you as well, because I did a night race with GTE cars a couple of days ago, and you do know when the Ferraris are coming to overtake you, because the six lights kind of go, blimey, blind you as they're flashing away at you.
Ben's looking at the times, and we're starting to get the first laps coming in with only 5.5 minutes left to go, and it is BMW from Ford. 3 BMWs, then a couple of Fords. Ben?
Just 14 cars, though, have managed to complete a lap. About half a dozen getting off tracks, which means that that lap is disallowed. Even more Mico Bortolotti coming into the pit, so he's going to get one lap or starting right at the back of the field. Tandy completes his lap. He was fastest in practice, but that has not been a good first lap for him.
So 2 minutes and there's a new fastest lap, and it is Rodrigo Luca in the 47 Motorsports Ford. He was on pole position at WeatherTech Raceway, wasn't he? Through the kink with Ayhan Guven, the young Porsche driver from Turkey. Pretty tidy in the sim as well, but needs to pick up a little bit more consistency. Through Canada Corner, you take an insane amount of speed through there. This is where the bridge used to be. It's now gone, and there's a tunnel underneath about there before he goes across the change in the surface and turns in for 14, the final corner.
That was close and off track. I think I'm interested to see where they got that one to be allowed at that on turn 14. Very, very wide.
You can use some of the banding off the track. Spengler down in fourth, Eng Casper, and Kenton Koch goes up into second for Ford. Through turn one then with the Porsche. So 2 Fords, and Kenton again looking very good, just 0.037 of a second behind. And it's Ford, then it's BMW, Robbie Foley for Turner BMW, the crotch belt will be delighted. Mirko Bortolotti in the 888, looking for a decent lap as well. He's heading down this middle straight down towards turn 5, coming in from the red and yellow curbs on the right hand side, and then right onto the new tarmac runoff on the left, underneath the Corvette bridge. Over the top, you turn in slightly blind at turn 5, accelerate, short shift, and then straight through turn 7. Really quick corner, that deceptively downhill now into turn number 8. Easy to overcook this and go wide, and the gravel trap is quite close under the Road America bridge, what used to be the Speedville Brock bridge, of course. And now it's patience. Now hard on the throttle, coming out of the carousel and down towards the kink. Take a deep breath, pull the belts in tight. Oh, there was a lift and back on again for Bortolotti. Now running down towards Canada Corner. Spot your braking point on the left hand side. Oh, he locks up the back a little bit on the down change there, down into second gear, but managed to hold on to it. That was a fantastic recovery from Bortolotti there. Always think you can take a little bit more speed through Canada Corner until you find yourself far too wide. Now he comes through the final corner, turn 14, the tricky right-hander, and now get your Kindle out, read a chapter of your book, and wait for the start-finish line. There he goes, as Ayhan Guven in the Porsche goes into second by 0.3 of a second. Rodrigo Luca at 2 minutes, 0.012, is now 0.3 of a second ahead of the field. Meantime, Lawrence Vanto for Porsche is down the field at the moment. Ben Constanturas, And Lawrence is still finding his feet here in the virtual world.
Yeah, he's got a second lap, so he'll be able to complete this one. Most of the top 10 have done their 2 laps, so they will not be able to counter any attack. Nick Tandy is on his second lap as well, so expect an improvement from Tandy from 10th position. Here comes Lawrence Van Thor. He was 21st position before this lap. The second laps have not been improvements for many, but for Aichan Guven it was, and for Lawrence Van Thor, it was not. Tandy, though, up to second.
Tandy's to second. So Ford, then Porsche, then Ford. Connor De Filippi is the best of the BMWs. Matt Bell, who's driving for Rebel Rock Racing in the Urban Grid coloured car, absolutely believes this is a Ford and Ferrari track and it will be a big ask for any BMW to win. Matt letting us know, and thanks to Declan Brennan for passing that on as well. The real world PR machines from these teams are running at full pace here. I think the big difference... Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
That's it. No more times. Daniel Morad's the last man to finish a lap, and so we won't have any more improvement. Richard Heistand was the last improvement, up to 5th position. But that's your grid.
Thank you. We'll have a quick look at the grid in a wee moment. Just a quick word, a bit of housekeeping for the guys back in Boston. If they can reset the timing, please, because it's still showing the Wilkesboro times from the other night, or some of the information's not getting through there onto the live timing. So they will run down the grid for you in a moment or two. My point I was going to make there about what Matt Bell said, it being a Ford Ferrari track, Porsche are right up there, BMW up there as well. I think, Nick Damon, what we've seen is that the BMWs tend to be better in race trim. They've been quick in qualifying as well up until now, but in race trim they really work very, very well.
Yeah, and I think it's I know it's been a meme, but they do have a big frontal area, and these cars are modelled very effectively. And this is a very, very fast circuit. So in qualifying, they are pushing more air out of the way. They're not going to have quite the peak speed when everything's running perfectly. So it's not a massive surprise to see the slipperier GTE cars from Ford, Ferrari, and Porsche being much, much closer during qualifying. In fact, well, not just closer, but the top 5 places obviously aren't BMWs. It'll be interesting to see whether that advantage spins through the race. But the other thing to remember is, BMW started with a big advantage in Sebring by taking it incredibly seriously with proper race engineers. I get the impression everyone is now taking it very seriously, and there's been a catching up. You only have to look at who's driving for the Porsche team. It's now the actual IMSA drivers and the WEC drivers, as everyone now realises the importance of getting out there and doing well in this event and this championship. So that's part of the narrowing. But I do think this track is probably going to be a bit of, if there is such a thing as an Achilles heel for BMW, this track is more likely to provide it.
Alan Prosser, thank you very much for the screen grab of Robert Wickens there at IMSA Radio. I've just retweeted it. Hello to Snooty McFlood, who's tuned in sound and vision as well. Stand by for action. We'll be going live with our race show. Thank you for joining us for the Michelin Countdown to Green. A last thought from Ben Constant-Juris. Is this the race, Ben, literally in 35 seconds, is this the race where the BMW stranglehold is most at risk?
Absolutely. The domination we've seen before in practices is not there. Very much a Porsche practice. It's been a Ford qualifying. It's going to be a fascinating battle.
Ben Constant-Juris and Nick Damon will be staying on with me, John Hindhoff, as we transition from our Michelin Countdown to Green. Stay tuned, because after the race, of course, we'll have our Michelin post-race tech and grab some of the drivers as they have just finished. The great advantage that we have in the virtual world is they don't have to do a slowed down lap, although the guys still have to wrangle them, it would seem, to get them into the right place to talk about them. Are you ready to go racing? Once every 2 weeks on a Thursday evening, it is the IMSA iRacing Pro Series. This week, it's WeatherTech Presents IMSA iRacing at Road America, and we are ready for the main event. We'll give you the grid and how everybody has qualified. 50 GT Le Mans cars are ready to go racing, and it's live in sound and vision next. In the early 1950s, road racing along the public streets and country roads around Wisconsin was a big deal. Long circuits, 6, 7, 8 miles. But in 1952, an accident brought all of that to the end. By 1955, what we know now as Road America had been carved into the rolling green countryside just outside Elkhart Lake. Hello everybody, I'm John Hindorf and this is the IMSA iRacing Pro Series, and we're at the longest track that IMSA competes on, right in the middle of dairy country outside Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Beautiful place to go at any time of the year, and one of the most challenging pieces of tarmac anywhere in the States, therefore anywhere in the world. At a tad over 4 miles, there are 14 corners, long run from the green flag down to turn 1, and that's much quicker than you think. The middle straight, downhill braking area into turn 5, the left-hander behind the pits. Tough to get that one right. Same sort of idea into turn 8 before the long carousel, and then flat out blast through the kink down to Canada corner, and again a slightly downhill braking. Try to take as much momentum as you can through Canada corner, because you're going all the way uphill then to the start-finish line. Well, 50 drivers from IMSA with a couple of very special guests as well. Robert Wickens joining us, Brad Keselowski from the world of NASCAR as well. Robert Wickens, of course, did drive in Formula BMW, which I think was an IMSA Sancture series. But then we're hearing that potentially we're not going to get Brad Keselowski in this race. That's a shame for the number 2 team, Penske Ford. Before we get into the race itself, as the countdown clock comes to just under 8 minutes, let's welcome in a very special guest indeed. In the real world, and therefore in the virtual world as well, I suppose, the home track of WeatherTech Racing, and therefore Cooper McNeil, is Road America. Cooper, welcome to the broadcast. And first, I've got to ask you the question, first of all, why aren't you racing?
Because my simulator is in pieces, and it's I ordered it about a week and a half ago. Obviously too late, but it's on the way, so I should be there soon enough.
Cooper, it's always nice for you guys from WeatherTech Racing to go to America's National Park of Speed. It is literally just up the road from the centre of the WeatherTech organisation.
Yeah, my home track, about 2.5 hours north of Chicago. I grew up going to Road America, watching my dad race up there in the SCCA days when he used to race, and got a lot of history there. Very special place to me. It's a second home away from home, essentially, and yeah, it should be a pretty good race tonight. I'm looking forward to watching.
And how's things going at WeatherTech at the moment? It's a difficult time for everybody in the business world. You're very proudly a USA-based company, and business at the moment. How do you make it work? Can you make it work?
Yeah, it's difficult with the lockdowns and the shutdowns, as everybody's experiencing. It's not just us, but it's important more so now than ever to support the American economy, support the American worker, the American infrastructure, and it's something that we've been doing since day one. We've been designing, manufacturing, engineering our products right here in America, and since the pandemic started, we've been designing and engineering tooling to manufacture low-cost, high-quality, disposable face shields, actually, for personal protective equipment. And the tooling should be done very soon, and we should be to market with our face shields shortly thereafter.
Brilliant stuff, mate, and well done for jumping in on the effort. Can I make one personal plea, please, as an international potential customer for WeatherTech? The cleverest thing I've ever seen is your mobile phone holder that slips into the cup holder of a car, and we need some of those in Europe, mate. It is the most brilliantly simple idea, and as soon as you see it, you go, why didn't I think of it? And you guys did. I want them in Europe, please.
WeatherTech.com. We ship to Europe, my friend.
Okay, you can bring one to the track when I see you. Let's finish up with some racing talk then. when do we see WeatherTech Racing back on track? As soon as IMSA gets going, is it the plan that you guys are going? And I've got to ask you about Le Mans. A lot of USA-based teams in the real world are withdrawing from Le Mans. Corvette have done it. The works at USA Porsche have done it. You've got a Ferrari entered in Le Mans in September. Are you still planning to go, assuming we can go?
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you can go to Le Mans, especially with your own entry like we have this year, it's a very special thing, and you have to take advantage of it. So if and when we do race this year, hopefully we go to Le Mans. Obviously, I'd like to go back there. I've done the race 6 times, finished on the podium twice, and had multiple top 5 finishes. So I'm really looking forward to going back there. To answer your first question, when are we going to see WeatherTech racing car back on track in real life? I'd love to be able to answer that for you, John. But the reality is we got to wait for the good word from IMSA, and to get back to racing as quickly and as soon as possible. That's really the most important thing.
Kurt would say hi to the rest of the WeatherTech Racing and the WeatherTech family for me. I'll see you at the track soon enough, I hope. Cheers, mate. Kurt McNeil joining us live here in the WeatherTech Presents IMSA Racing at Road America. Let's take a look at the grid as we are getting very close to the green flag. It was very, very tight at the front. Look at the times. Rodrigo Luca, 2 minutes, 0.012 for 4 miles. That's 120 mile an hour average. Even I can do that arithmetic. Nick Tandy, 2 minutes, 0.284 of a second. It's another Porsche and Ford battle on row 2 with Iron Chan Guven on the inside, and then Kenton Cook on the outside. Richard Highstand in the number 11 Ford is on the inside of row 3 with Connor De Filippi, the first of the BMWs, only in 6th position. Then it's Jesse Krohn and Robbie Foley, and all BMW row 4 for one of the works cars, and of course the Turner BMW, the 96 yellow and blue car. Nicky Katzberg for BMW and Bruno Spengler, another old BMW row 5. Then it's Philip Eng and John Edwards. Guess what? That's another BMW row as well. So the Munich cars are massing behind the front rows. Richard Westbrook for Ford is alongside Shinya Mishimi, also in the Ford, the sort of bright purple coloured car. Then it's Agustin Canapino, the Argentinian, Juncos Racing, the number 66, alongside the Mazda Works driver, Harry Tincknell, driving a Multimatic Ford here. Kyle Masson is on the inside of row 9 with Philippe Albuquerque. Welcome back to Philippe again as well. Earl Bamber making his debut in the IMSA iRacing Challenge has Sebastian Priaulx in the 111 Multimatic Ford alongside him. Then Lawrence Van Tour. Well, normally they race together. Well, they're line astern here with Tristan Nunez, who just got his race rig this week and is in an iRacing event for the first time. Jonathan Bomarito and Matt Bell for the number 71 Urban Grid machine next up. Then Daniel Morad and Tristan Vautier, Shane Van Gisbergen. Not a great qualifier here. Down on the row 14 with Alessandro Balzan of Ferrari next to his BMW. Mirko Bortolotti, the 888 Ford. He must have missed a couple of laps there to be that far back. AJ Allmendinger on the outside of row 15 in 30th position. And we're only 2/3 of the way through. Aaron Telitz and Jax Hawksworth are together on row 16. Jeff Segal for Ferrari and Colin Brown on 17. 18, Philippe Inazza. Welcome back to Philippe. And Misha Goikberg in the number 57 alongside him. Corey Lewis and Matt Griffin. Matt Griffin making his IMSA iRacing debut. The affable Irishman who lives now in the centre of England, driving the Risi 62 car. Riley Dickinson and Robert Wickens. Great effort by Robert on the outside of row 20 for his first time out in IMSA. Roman De Angelis, Porsche specialist, on row 21 alongside Will Hardeman, the man from Texas, another Porsche driver there on row 21. Getting towards the back of the grid now with Parker Chase and Ben Keating. There's another new name, Ben, in this event for the first time. Then Joel Miller and Dylan Murray. Michael De Quesada as well. Welcome to him. He's alongside Townsend Bell. And then that is the end, because we've got a couple of spare places at the back. So that's how the grid will line up. Let's take a quick look before we get down to the grid itself at our Porsche keys to the race. It's John Hindhaugh with Ben Constanduris and Nick Damon. Get smart early. Well, those at the front of the field, Ben, have done exactly that. Now they've got to convert that into a steady but quick and pretty sensible first few laps.
And you touched on it earlier, that first corner is a difficult one to go side by side and a real magnet for trouble. So certainly the first couple of corners with so many cars on track, very important to keep clean.
You bend it, you bought it. Nick, I'm not asking you to put your money on the table, but if you pick up damage here, it will affect performance. Even if we can't always see the damage on iRacing, particularly on the fast straights, aero problems here could really cost you.
A dink, a little bang, it doesn't seem very much. Graphically, it can mean very little, but it will take the edge off the car. I mean, just for an example, I was running a race in Monza. I got a side swipe which only seemed to damage the wheel arch, but that took a second and a half off my slow time to begin with. So imagine what we do to these top drivers. Speed
is king here. That's another Porsche key to the race and how people set their cars up, either for the top speed, VMAX as they'll be calling it, or a little bit more stability through the fast corners. That'll be interesting. Don't be a fuel. You can't afford, Ben, to get it wrong here, because the run to the pit lane is all uphill, and if you run out of fuel, you're not going to be able to coast it in.
There will be no coasting up into pit lane. Make sure your numbers are correct. There'll be a lot of work from both pro drivers, pro iRacing drivers helping their work teams. I can see Alexander Voss for BMW, Maximilian Beneke, who is the best iRacing driver in the world.
10K Beneke.
I think he's helping out Porsche.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Alex Voss is one of the guys who mentors the BMW, and 10K Beneke, we call him 10K Beneke because he has a more than 10K rating, or at least he did up until recently. He may have slightly crashed his rating recently. And the tyres, we always say that, Nick, it's become a bit of a trademark for us, but it seems like again here at Road America it's going to be an important one. Who has got grip from the Michelins at the end of the race?
Yeah, it's 28 seconds in the pits to change the tyres, so therefore if you come out, you've got 45 minutes, you've got almost exactly 23, 24 laps, so you've got to hope that they are a second and a half faster, or more importantly, are the old ones a second and a half slower as they go off. We've seen one track in Laguna Seca where there's been a problem and the tyres have died. The other three, the car's been able to do the whole race easily. Personally, I think this is going to be closer to Laguna Seca than in Ohio. It may be worth the gamble, especially if things go wrongly. And don't forget, that competition yellow could make it a no-brainer for some people.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people might just hang on and hope that the competition yellow comes at the right time for them. We did see an early stop by Shane van Gisbergen last time out at Mid-Ohio, but that is a very, very different character of circuit, just 2.25 miles. Here, we've got a full 4 miles. Temperatures, well, track temp over 85 degrees Fahrenheit, that's the mid-20s centigrade. The air temperature, 5 or 6 Fahrenheit underneath that, so low 20s, mostly cloudy, and that will make a difference. And remember, we say this every time, but it's important for new people coming to that as we look at the WeatherTech weather conditions. If the sun comes out, the track temperature goes up, it will make a difference to the tyre degradation and how the cars handle and how they use their rubber. The other thing is that this circuit started off absolutely clean when we were doing practicing and qualifying. It hasn't been swept virtually or actually, so there will be a build-up of tyre debris off the racing line, and there's some parts of this track where there is literally only one line to play with.
John, we've got a little bit of news from pit lane. We lost Will Hardman, he's had an internet issue, and Nico Bertolotti has not entered the race either. So 2 drivers not entering the race at all, and now 2 drivers having technical issues and not getting into the race proper.
The lights are out on the Porsche safety car. It's Nick Damon and me, John Hindhaugh. Ben's going to be keeping an eye on the pits and some of the battles further down the field. He can swap around. He's got his own iRacing rig that he is watching on. We'll watch the director's cut put together by the fantastic team over in Boston, Massachusetts, headed up by Drew Adamson and the rest of the guys, Cisco and Alex, with him tonight on duty. The Porsche safety car, pace car as it is now, safety cars it will become in the competition yellow, will peel off to the right hand side. Then the field is under the control of Rodrigo Luca in the dark coloured Ford on driver's right. He's got the inlet side. Oh, he's gone for it early, and he's clear in the front. And he's contacting napping there round the outside. The bright purple Ford as well down that first corner, but Fluke has really caught them all off guard there. They were all napping round the outside. Here comes Kenton Cook. Now, he had a neck cord issue at the start of the race at Mid-Ohio, and he wasn't able really to recover from that. He could have done so much better, got a decent top 6 finish, but he could have done so much better. He settles in between the two Works Porsches into 3rd position. So it's Luca, Tandy, Coop, Ayn-Chan Guben, then Richie Highstand and Conor De Filippi in the first of the BMWs, coming in 6th position. Highstand in the number 11 Ford. Oh, a touch! Oh. And that is Cook going out. Kenton Cook looked to get a touch from one of the Porsches. Was it Guven? Yes, it was Guven, going down in the braking area at turn 5. Oh dear, Kenton's had no luck at all. There goes Westbrook in the light blue and orange Ford coming through turn number 6 and on towards turn 7, in fact. So absolute mayhem.
This is always the most dangerous part of a rolling start within iRacing, because you've got, especially with the tyres are warming up, you've got different people doing different speeds at different parts of the track, and it is very easy to tag someone very slightly. I think that what Goover did wasn't a big tag, but when you tag the cars in the first couple of laps, they are very effectively on an edge, on a balance. It's easy to turn them round. The guy who tags tends to get away with it. Unfortunately, the person gets hit straight in the wall, and effectively Kenton isn't going to win this race. He's now got a recovery drive.
As we said in the Porsche keys to the race, you bend it, you bought it, or at least your chances of a good result have taken a beating. They may have bought it, certainly. BMWs running in the just outside the top 5, and there's 4 of them all line astern, but the top 5 actually no, we've still Spengler's got past
yes. Filippi, so he's made up a couple of positions.
Well, Filippi's dropped down to 10th. He was in 6th.
Filippi's been squeezed out as they all came together in turn 1. Fluke's great start is what I actually want to see, because you actually want to try to get as close to single file as quickly as possible, because otherwise people get shuffled down, mainly because they don't want to have that first lap accident. Sometimes discretion is a better part of valour, and that appears to be what Conor De Filippi has been suffering from.
At IMSA Radio gets you straight to the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, which is where Nick Damon, Ben Constanturis and myself, John Hindhaugh, are calling the race from. We're split up. We've got more than our 2 metres 6'6" between us at the moment. In fact, I think Matt Griffin is closer to me than either of you two are at the moment, only by a street or so. Oh, side by side action with 3 BMWs heading up under the Corvette bridge to turn number 6. Nick,
and Conor De Filippi did sweep down the inside of turn 5 and get past Bruno there. So he's made that place back up against Spengler going backwards.
Right, what happened to Kenton Cook? He's in between the 2 Works Porsches, Tandy and Guven. He looks to the outside. Oh, Guven just did give him a tap.
Lightest,
it was the lightest, but you're going downhill there, Nick. You know how unsettled the car is. You've driven around here. Then he gets picked up by a spinning Whelan car.
And he gets hit by the Porsche number 76, I think that was. It wasn't 76, but so that was not 1 bit of damage, but 2 extra pieces of damage as well. That is the definition of very bad luck.
And I presume, Ben, that Kenton has come into the pits at the end of the first lap. Another really big bit of bad luck for Kenton Cook in the early running here, as we saw exactly the same. He had contact in the early part of the Mid-Ohio event.
It doesn't look like he has, actually. We had Townsend Bell in pit lane and Roman De Angelis. We had a couple of Ferraris facing the wrong way at the back of the field. Both Joe Miller and Matt Griffin had very bad starts. Ben Keating also having a difficult start. He's now down in 40th position. And another man who we'd expect to see at the front of the field, Shinya Mishimi, he is way down the field as well.
Rodrigo Luca has made good his escape. Robbie Foley's got Richard Highstand in the green and tangerine Ford ahead of him, and Jesse Kron in the BMW behind him. The Turner BMW in the yellow and blue colours, exactly as we would see it in real life. And a little message: if you've been watching the Turner, Twitter feed, there have been a little bit of a carbon fibre magnet in races recently, and it's worth having a look at their Twitter feed for the new part of that. And that's another Andy Blackmore livery as well. Lawrence Vantour, 20th at the moment, and he's battling with Tristan Nunez in the Ford ahead of him, and Shane Van Gisbergen, 21st in the 97 car, is behind him. The Ian Vassar-Sullivan car very easily picked out there, and he's got Fords in front of him all over the place. It's Prior, Albuquerque, Daniel Morad, 4 Fords battling in front of the AVS, the Ian Vassar-Sullivan. Now those guys don't run BMWs in IMSA, they run the Lexus in GT Daytona, but we're running GT Le Mans here, and there is no GT Le Mans at Lexus at the moment, so they've transferred their colour schemes onto the BMW, and it looks pretty good, doesn't it? 4 Fords then battling, then the Ian Vassar-Sullivan BMW, then Lawrence Vantour, who looked very, very cool, calm and collected, sitting on the back of that 6-car train. Behind Lawrence is Tristan Vautier in the BMW, the yellow car. Jeff Siegel is in the Ferrari, and then another BMW, the 48 Paul Miller racing car of Corey Lewis. So this is the battle, effectively, Nick, for 16th down to about 30th, actually. I think there's another 5 or 6 cars over the top of the hill.
And one of the interesting things, if you look at the cars, the country was like this, you can see the bigger frontal area of the BMW, can't you, compared to the low swooping Fords. And this is why on this very fast track, the Fords are getting this advantage as Van Gisbergen's teammate. That may have been actually Townsend Bell just rejoining or getting out of the way of this train of cars after his pit stop. But that is why basically in the speed traps you're going to see these Fords being much quicker, and also the Porsches as well. And why Rodrigo Luca is getting away at the moment. He's pulling away a couple of tenths, but we have a battle for second on camera between the 2 Porsches of Nick Tandy and Aychan Guven.
Nick Tandy, another man not too far away from me. Oh, spin! And that's Seb Prior. He's gone into the gravel at turn 5. Now, did he jump or was he pushed there?
Was he pushed?
Yeah, good question. He was in a cracking battle just down towards the bottom half of the top 20, and he's recovered, but has he got damage? That's the big question. 71.
Didn't look like anything serious. He spinning out like that, either he just gave it too much of the right foot at the wrong point as the changing surface down there, or he got a little tap, and normally those little taps don't actually do any lasting damage to the car.
71 is Mark Bell. He's running in the colours of Urban Grid in that BMW. They normally run a Camaro, of course, the Rebel Rock team. Robin Liddell, part of that team, and has been supporting his teammate. He's running in 27th at the moment, right behind the recovering Sebastian Prior, and Parker Chase in the Porsche is in that fight as well. Westbrook closing up on a Ferrari at the moment. Ben, what are you watching?
Yeah, I just had a quick look at what happened to Sebastian Prior, who was defending on the inside line from Tristan Nunez, and I don't know whether there was contact, very difficult to see, but suddenly the rear broke away under braking, almost as though on downshift. He was well offline, he was right on the inside of the turn, rear rotated. Everyone else went through, no other problems, but there might have been, again, the lightest of touches.
So we've had just coming up to 10 minutes, and Rodrigo Luca leads by the better part of 2 seconds from Nick Tandy and Aychan Guven, the 2 Porsches then second and third, then Richard Highstand for Ford. So 2 Fords, 2 Porsches in the top 4. Robbie Foley is the best of the BMWs for Turner, the number 96 car, 5 seconds off the lead, but only half a second behind Highstand, 3 tenths ahead of Jesse Kron for BMW, then Katzberg, then Eng in the red and white, number 26 is 8. Conor De Filippi is 9th, and the top 10 is made up by number 7, Bruno Spengler. Inter-Nissan battle between the 2 Porsches. 911 is Tandy. Nick Tandy, who's really come on in the last couple of races, Nick. He's he certainly said that, he hadn't been on this for quite a long time. He used it when he first went to the States to learn the tracks, but then really had to put it away because he was too busy. We're going to go back to Sebastian Priaulx. This is what Ben was watching a few moments ago. Tristan Nunez can see the Multimatic car right ahead of him.
Yeah, got a touch, little touch.
Just a little touch?
That was a little touch, definitely, yeah. You could see it through Nunez. Again, it's a completely non-intentional, didn't want to do it problem. Now, back to Tandy. I think I was looking at some of the times. It did appear that Tandy may actually be slightly holding up Ayhancan Guven in the 913 car. And you kind of wonder, it's unlikely in this particular race whether if we were doing this actually in Wisconsin, there might be some team orders to at least let Ayhancan go to see if he could attack Fluke and stop him getting too far away. But Tandy really has come from being pretty much nowhere 2 races ago. So as you can see, fight for the lead. You sweep back and look at the fastest BMW, which is still just in Crom, but we've now got a...
No, it's Robbie Foley. Foley's just gone by High Stand. That was a change of position. And that Tangerine and green car, sorry Nick, but the Tangerine green car's just lost a position, and Foley now up into 4th position. So Turner BMW, and Robbie Foley, Ben, is another driver who up until our last race had well, no luck at all. He'd only had bad luck, to be honest. He was taken out by another BMW driver, having qualified on pole at Sebring. He was on the front row, I think, again at Mid-Ohio. Laguna, excuse me.
He speared off as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. But he's really come back into his own if he's managed to get round the first lap, basically. And now he's doing a cracking job. And remember, that's a privateer entered BMW. Robbie has been drafted into the BS competition online racing team. They are one of the top teams. There's a Williams eSports team as well. BRS Coanda, Huizingveld. All of these guys big in the sim racing world, and Robbie is impressed so much that BS have asked him to go and race in the digital Nürburgring Langstrecke series, what used to be called the VLA, the long distance series that runs exclusively on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. We're in a little bit of a hiatus for that championship at the moment, with a couple of weekends off before that restarts, and Robbie really delighted to have had his sim and virtual world talent recognised by BS competition. Meantime, battle for second continues, still 2 seconds behind Rodrigo Luca. Last lap around, he did a 2:04. No, he didn't. Let me go to the other screen here. 2:01.455 for the leader, 2:01.546. Fastest lap of the race though, 2:01.001 for Ayhancan Guven. That's only a second away, Ben Considuras, from what we saw qualifying. That's pretty impressive this early on full fuel.
Absolutely, and he'll be benefiting a little bit from sitting in the slipstream of Nick Tandy. Those two will have been working incredibly hard together this week. I know for a fact that the Porsche teams have really put a lot of effort into this fun. It's great to see a Ferrari represented well as going well too. Here is the Argentine trying to go around the outside. It hasn't worked for him.
Harry Tincknell
in it.
Sorry, Ben, that's Harry Tincknell in new colour scheme this week for the 55, with a little more orange and black on that car. That must be Westby sticking in behind him, I take it. Yes, it is, in the usual eggshell blue colours. That's the battle to be in the top dozen. Tincknell ahead of Canapino in the Young Cost Racing coloured car. Augustin Canapino, if you don't know, very tidy sim racer, but also good in the real world. Has raced for Young Cost in real life, including in the IMSA series, where he was behind the wheel of a DPI Cadillac. And very much impressed Jeremy Shaw and I in the real world. And he had done a bit of sim racing a few years ago, rather like Nick Tandy, and has come back to it and taken to it like a duck to water again, and has been impressing again in some of the long distance races. Nürburgring 24 hour with his team's one of the Williams eSports drivers in that, and has been very, very impressive. That's orange, green and white Ferrari coming through the final corner now, right up the very stylish tailpipes of the Ford ahead of him. Fluker just pulls out a little 2 or 3 tenths more. Now it's over 2 seconds. Only 3 tenths between Tandy and Guven. And then this battle further down the field with Tincknell, Canapino and Westbrook. Westbrook got a great run through turn 1 there. It's so difficult though to get yourself into a position at the bottom of the hill at turn 3. Although that new surface there has got plenty of grip, just a little wheel off the end of the curb by Harry Tincknell. Behind them is Kyle Masson in the BMW, number 38. Oh, meantime, a little further ahead of them, 24 is in the mix.
Yeah, Jesse Cron's got past, hasn't he? He's moved up to 4th place, and it's relegated by 3 places are going to be lost by Robin Foley there, so that's gone quite badly. And even the 10 of Nicky Katzberg has gone through. Now, Katzberg is interesting, John, because don't forget the battle for the championship is Katzberg v Spengler.
Yeah.
Currently, Katzberg with a couple of points leads in 6th. Spengler not really showing particularly stellar at all so far today, is in 10th.
And the man who lost out the most there was Robbie Foley. Robbie Foley, who was in 4th position, now in 7th. Jesse Cron up to 4th, High Stand up to 5th. This is all in the main box if you're watching. Then Katzberg, Foley, Philip Eng. Battle for 2nd in the 2 Porsches on the top left-hand side of the screen as they go into Canada corner. And the battle for 12th that we were watching earlier on, Ford, Ferrari and Ford. That's Tincknell, Canapino and Westy, Richard Westbrook, now at Canada corner and heading up towards where the Bill Mitchell Bridge used to be. The leader crossing the line now, Rodrigo Luca. I haven't seen him really since the drop of the green flag, but then again neither has anybody else, to be honest, because he caught everyone napping and drove away from the field. 2:01.6 last time around, 2:01.7 for Tandy, 2:01.5 for Guven, 2:02.3 for Jesse Cron, but he had a bit of a kerfuffle as he leads this gaggle of cars with Richard Highstand in the mostly green Ford going through turn 1 in the Ford GT in 5th position. Then Katzberg, Foley, Philip Eng in the red and white car just on the back of that for BMW Team Austria.
And John, we have had only one car in pit lane so far. If you cast your mind back to the first couple of rounds, we would see half a dozen to a dozen cars resetting back to the pits, but just the one car to make a pit stop, presumably for damage, and that was AJ Allmendinger, who's bound back out on track. But we've had just the one retirement in Aaron Tillitz and just the one pit visitor in AJ Allmendinger.
Sadly didn't get Brad Keselowski to the start of the race, and Ben, you told us about somebody who was having some connectivity problems as well and couldn't start the race. Was that Aaron Tillitz, was it?
No, that was Will Hardman.
Will Hardman it was, yes, the Texan.
Yeah, and Bertolotti did actually start the race about half a lap behind the rest of the field, so he did manage to get into the race, albeit slightly later. Might be
worthwhile, whilst we're in a little bit of a status quo here, just to pick up our leader and then cycle back and show you the gaps. We're at Road America for the 4th round of the IMSA iRacing Pro Series, the WeatherTech Presents IMSA racing at Road America. And let's keep an eye on these battles and let's go through our Mazda race rundown. Here's how it stands then, with just on 23 minutes having elapsed. Rodrigo Luca leads for Ford, 2.2 seconds ahead of Nick Tandy for Porsche. Then Ayhan Guven also for Porsche, just 3 seconds further back. Then a fabulous battle from the helicam across the start-finish line. Jesse Cron, Richard Highstand, Nicky Katzberg, Robbie Foley and Philip Eng, with Connor De Filippi just starting to close in on them. That's 4th down to 9th position. Bruno Spengler makes up the top 10. That's your Mazda race rundown, as we have still got about an hour and 10 minutes to go. Now, what's going to be crucial here is the projection of how many laps we will be getting in this race and how people are going to split this up. So we'll keep an eye on that. Still no one's made their opening pit stops. The 10 sitting in the middle there, Nicky Katzberg. That's a slightly changed colour scheme for him. The two-tone blue and red, really liking the liveries. People have gone to town again on this, although we can't wander around the paddock as we would do in real life and pick up the new liveries. So we see them and have to identify them when we see a little snatch of them in practice or qualifying, which I know is what Ben's been doing on his own iRacing rig. While this battle goes on, Ben, what are the guys going to be doing until we talk about in our Porsche Keys to the Race, the fuel strategy, the tyre strategy, of course. How are the guys getting that information, and what have they got? Don't be a fuel, we said, and the tyres in our Porsche Keys to the Race. How are the guys working out? Are they having to push buttons on the keyboard, or is somebody telling them?
There'll be somebody who has the information and be able to do calculations, and certainly within the leading teams, they do BMW and Porsche, they have strategists helping the guys out, but in terms of actually selecting how much fuel goes into the car, that does need to be done by the driver as he goes into the pit lane, or at any point when he gets a moment's rest, and he'll have a dial showing how many litres the car has got and how many projected laps that will get them to. Remember, strategy-wise, we've got this competition caution at some point. That will be really playing into the brains of various drivers. And just as we speak, actually, Matt Bell has come into the pits, and he has made a 1-minute pit stop. So, unfortunately, Matt Bell down to 45th position. And I do know that there's a lot of people who are big fans of Earl Bamber making his debut into the series. I've been doing some commentary with him on a different series over the last couple of weeks, and Earl has been doing up to 8 hours of practice a day. His target is to be better than his teammate Lawrence Vanthoor. He started ahead of Vanthoor in the race, but in the early running, Earl has had an issue, and he's right at the tail of the field now.
Yeah, and Matt Bell, Riley Dickinson coming in and taking early stops, as Ben Constantura said there. Let's just remind ourselves that was at the end of lap 10. Looking at the last couple of lap times, for the first time in a while, Nick Tandy and Aynchan Guven are pulling back on the leader, and all of a sudden the gap is under 2 seconds. It was up to almost 2.3. It's now down to 1.8 seconds. Nick Tandy and Aynchan Guven just beginning to reel in the leader. Canada corner then for the two Porsches. Still overcast here, and the temperatures that WeatherTech reports on the track and air temperatures were mid 80s Fahrenheit and high 70s track and air respectively at the start. It doesn't look like the cloud cover has completely cleared, although being a 4-mile circuit, you can sometimes get slightly differing conditions at one side of the track from the other. Down towards turn number 1, Connor De Filippi sitting in 9th position. Ahead of him, Philip Eng in the red-white BMW Team Austria. Through turn 1, right all the way at the curbs on the exit, under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge. That little kink is turn 2. Tricky downhill braking area. Take the curb on the right-hand side. Roll all the way to the edge of the curve. See the dust being dragged onto the track there on that middle straight under the Sargento Cheese Bridge. One of the many crossover bridges here. Beautiful place to spectate. So many places you can get close to the track without very much obstruction if you're a keen photographer. Slightly further up the field, Robbie Foley, you see in the background there, recovering. Robbie dropped down to 7th position, so he was just a little bit further ahead, and that must be Jesse Kron who's looking back at Richard Highstand from his BMW. Behind Highstand is Nicky Katzberg in the number 10 BMW. Good run by Richard Highstand in the green and tangerine Ford GT as they head through the kink. Ben?
I think
John, an interesting one with Matt Bell taking a pit stop. We're hearing that it was a kind of a strategic decision, but looking at the car as it came into the pits, it certainly had damage. He's had that repaired, and he's now back in a healthy car. So if he can get a decent turn of pace up now, he doesn't have to pit again, in theory. And with the competition caution coming out at some point, he will be in a really good position in the second half of the race.
I think what it is, Ben, is if you have picked up some damage, you effectively don't want to make 2 stops. So you effectively go as early as you possibly can and still get to the end. So you get your damage fixed effectively for free. And so obviously he's calculated with the competition caution, he can get to the end and get fixed. And obviously, as you say, if he doesn't go a lap down, the competition caution will take on the back of everyone else, and then he can fight with them with a healthy car.
And Ben Keating doing the same thing right now.
Yeah, Ben Keating's just pitted. New personal best for Matt Bell in that number 71, Level Rock Racing. You know I want to say Camaro because that's what they race. It is a BMW here. They're racing the Camaro in GT4 competition.
I think what we're seeing here, John, is a really interesting, certainly with these various stable trains of cars, be it 2 cars or 7 cars, it just shows how difficult it is to overtake here because all these cars are running at, the interesting thing is you've got 7 BMWs and 1 Ford. Now you think the Ford would be able to pick up at some point because it's very straight line speed. You've also seen better braking for the BMWs, I noticed in that heli shot going into turn 5. But the net effect is there isn't enough overlap to get past. And certainly no one's going to go for a lunge this early in the race.
No. Ben Keating in and out of the pits. Philippe Albuquerque running slowly in their 22 is the report that I'm getting in the Whelan Accident Express car. That was the car, remember, that made Ken Cook's accident even worse than it was in the early running down at turn number 5. Robbie Foley, who's been as high as 4th, now back down into 7th position in a bit of a conflagration that we haven't really got to the bottom of at the moment, but he's still there or thereabouts in the Turner BMW, heading through towards the tunnel underneath the cars right now. That's that new piece of tarmac. And then turning into turn 14, the 14th and final corner, the right hand that leads on this long run up the front straight. We've had some finishes here down through the years. Still they haven't made the finish line. Now they have, past our commentary position. It's where we'd normally be on the left-hand side and almost ground level. It's a fabulous place to watch them come up above the top of the brow. Into turn 1. Really have to take a lot of momentum through there. Oh, and a spinner. And it's one of the Fords. It's Colin Brown. It's Colin Brown, and was that a Porsche involved there as well?
No, that was a Porsche trying to avoid the accident. That was the so Colin Brown had an accident with somebody else who was in the wall. The green and black Porsche, that was a car that came across the accident and had to take a bit of emergency avoiding action not to get taken out by it.
Well, Colin is moving again, and he's got Robert Wickens right up his tailpipes now, driving for Bath, which is, of course, one of the teams that Robert started his racing career with. Down the inside, that is a classic textbook Road America pass. Drag up behind your opponent across the start-finish line, coming through behind Wickens.
It was Parker Chase in the 29 who had to take avoiding action. I'm not sure who was actually involved in the accident and was facing the wall as the 54 car was just regaining its composure.
Parker Chase has dropped down to 29th position there. Jonathan Bomarito in amongst that as well in the number 3. Robert Wickens, a picture of concentration, using a very interesting setup with the hand brake effectively. He goes side by side through turn number 6 just after the Corvette bridge. 27th position at the moment, with Colin Brown and Jonathan Bomarito and the Fords around him, using the brake handle and being able to just feel that in there. May have a bit of force feedback on it as well, so that he can feel when the tyres are locking up. Shift levers in the normal position behind the steering wheel, and an accelerator as well on the steering wheel that he's using with his left hand, where the Formula 1 clutch area would be. Tries to go down the inside of the Ford, can't get it done this time. That's Colin Brown, who's recovering after being off track. And Tristan Fortier, is that Tristan Fortier? No, it's not. It's Parker Chase who's recovering in the 29 car, in the 19 car, excuse me.
No, you're right first time, the 29 car. Yeah, it's
no, it's 29th position. It is the 19.
The
bright yellow car.
But
so here comes Wiggins down the inside into turn 1. Now, how good is he on that brake? Look how calm he is as he goes into turn 1. That's 2 laps in a row that he's done that. The Porsche clearly has a little bit more top speed than that, I presume, damaged now Ford of Colin Brown, the black and orange car. And watch the yellow Porsche at the back of this 4-car train as well, because that is beginning to make a little bit of ground on them. Nick.
And they're coming up with the biggest stop of all. So let's look at the brake work by Wiggins here, because this is the hardest stop to get right. He's not in the ideal line. He's not a bit tight. He's defending against Colin Brown, but and he's just not got the drive out of it. Can the Ford get past up the inside? No,
he's gone wide.
Space.
I think Robbie.
Too polite.
Yes, exactly what I was going to say. Far too polite there. Wiggins drops down to 30th position, and he'll have Roman De Angelis on his rear spoiler any second now. At the head of the field, the gap has come down to a 1.5 seconds. Now, who's that BMW then? That's Jonathan Bomarito, is it? No, he's gone through. And so that is Roman De Angelis in the BMW. I can't imagine Roman in a BMW. I'm so used to seeing him in a Porsche Cup car. Let's just review what happened a few moments ago with that number 54, Colin Brown. Kenton Koch. Is that Shinji? One of the 2 purple cars. So this was what happened to Colin Brown. And he got absolutely nailed by the 57 Porsche, the dark blue car.
Itself.
That's Misha Goldberg. That was Misha Goldberg.
Didn't he cause a lot of trouble at Mid-Ohio as well?
Could possibly say. Ben, there's a job for you in the diplomatic corps. Down to 1.4 seconds, the battle for the lead. They've just been easing back up to the leader, Ben, and it's all it takes, isn't it? Just a half a tenth or a tenth a lap, and all of a sudden things are starting. I just wonder, we've seen the Porsche guys in the past, Tandy and Guven, saving their tyres for the end of the stint, and it looks like they're doing that now. They're catching the leader.
Yes, and they're also catching Matt Bell, who's just ahead of Rodrigo right now. Matt Bell's running well, though. He's not running slowly, so in theory they won't catch him too quickly, but it will mean it will be difficult to pass him when they do get there, and you can see that gap is inching closer and closer.
Yeah, and Matt Bell, last lap was a slow one, 2:30. No, that was Misha, excuse me, 2:02.2. That's not bad, you're right. But the problem is it's 0.6 of a second slower than the leaders. Now they're coming to the end of their fuel run, or at least they're well past halfway on it, with nearly 40 minutes having been completed since we dropped the green flag. Call that 16 laps if you'd rather. These cars will, around here with so much flat out running, probably around about 51, 52 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And Matt Bell, of course, now he's trying to go all the way to the end of the race, and that might be a big ask from where he was. Nick Tandy, second place, 1.2 seconds further ahead. He'll want to be right with Rodrigo, who's that 1.2 seconds further ahead when he comes to Matt Bell. And there's Matt Bell then in the Rebel Rock Racing car, the Urban Grid sponsored machine, in the normal Camaro colours, but no Camaro GT Le Mans cars. Oh, please, GM, wouldn't that be fantastic? Although they've already got a Corvette, of course, I suppose they wouldn't do it.
This is going to be significant for the strategy, though, isn't it? Because if he drops a lap down, then once that safety car comes out, he won't be able to benefit from catching back up to the pack.
Well, only if they haven't made their stop at that point. If they've come for their stop, then he'll catch up, because he'll get his lap back again. But we need to see how much of a fight he puts in. My guess is not too much. Have the blue flag in his cockpit, telling him he's got the leader behind him.
Explain what you're saying there. Blue flag in the cockpit. There's not actually a flag waving in his cockpit, but actually this idea that's come from sim racing is
a graphic.
Is actually in WEC, for example. have the Magneti Marelli, what I call the flag in the carb system, and actually that's an idea that came from sim racing. So what's he seeing at the moment? Leaders in the pits. Come back to that in a moment. Fluker from the lead into the pits. So with 50 minutes to go. So I said I thought they could do 52 minutes. So he's coming.
And behind.
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Behind, you've got Nicky Katzberg, Philipp Eng and Bruno Spengler as well. 3 BMWs, key to the championship, also choosing exact same lap to pit.
Keep an eye on them, see if they go for tyres as well as fuel. So Nick Tandy leads for Porsche from Ayachan Guven for Porsche. For Jesse Krohn, who stayed out for the 24 BMW, as did Richard Highstand, but they've dropped to nearly 10 seconds away from the two Porsches. And Matt Bell, for the moment, then lives on and stays on the lead lap. This is crucial for him.
Yeah, I think the Porsche are unlikely to run more than 2 more laps, so he should be okay. And the only reason he wouldn't be okay is the competition caution came out exactly at the point where they lapped him before they went in. Just to answer, what he's seeing in his cockpit in the top left-hand side is a blue flag with a yellow stripe, yellow slash across it, which is the American version of the blue flag. And you see that as soon as someone who is a lap ahead of you, or about to be a lap ahead of you, is within 1.5 seconds of you.
At IMSA Radio gets you onto the screen in front of us here as Robert Wickens comes in.
Ooh.
It's the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Ooh, says Ben Constanturas. Ooh for why?
I don't know why, but Bruno Spengler has jumped a lot of them and he's come out ahead of Rodrigo Luca. He did take tyres, but something about his pit stop was a hell of a lot faster than the rest of him, even his teammates, and Spengler is now ahead of all of those first pitters.
And you're sure he took tyres?
He did take tyres, but it's I don't know how he's done it.
Well, he put less fuel in. That could be the only thing, can't it?
I will check again, because of course Spengler and Katzberg look the same. Yeah, he was on his jack, so definitely took tyres.
Then skimming back through, the great advantage that we have in the virtual world is that Ben can go and look at any car any time of the race, and that's what we're having him do at the moment. He's effectively our virtual pit reporter, except he can be anywhere at the track all at the same time. If only he could do that in real life. In comes Conor De Filippi, came in out of 5th position. Tandy and Guven have gone through, and we're hearing from race control that they think that he short fueled as well. Tandy now, crucial part of the race for the Urban Grid Rebel Rock Racing BMW. He's going to go a lap down here, but how much longer can he stay out? Prior into the pit lane, and the 111 Multimatic Ford then comes into the pit lane again after problems. Now this is absolute nightmare for Matt Bell. He's in between the two Porsches and he wants Nick Tandy to get out the way here because he does not want the safety car to come out right now. And don't forget, in the competition yellow, the pits will close until the lead has been picked up by the Porsche safety car. So that's the other problem for the Porsches here. They don't want to get caught and have to do even another slow lap behind the safety car.
If they got caught behind the safety car, that would be, not game over, but it'd be track position over. They really need to come in now to maximise their advantage. Just looking at some of the times whilst Ben goes in very deep to it, Rodrigo Luca had a slow stop even compared to Nicky Katzberg, 3 seconds longer, but the Spengler stop is ridiculously short. I mean, it's not like a couple of seconds, it's 12 seconds too fast, and that's like, what is that? That's 12 gallons of fuel, 11 gallons of fuel. And I don't know whether they've made a mistake.
No. It's about 2.9 litres per second that goes in.
Okay, so 12 seconds is 30. So basically, it's about 6 gallons of fuel.
Yeah. But
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's not like a 3 second clever short fuel. That's like we are running a different engine with several less cylinders.
Yes, that's the 4-cylinder BMW M8, the oft forgotten about.
Yes.
Into the pit lane, Jesse Krohn and Richard Highstand. So that's only leaving Robbie Foley and the two Porsches out there. Has John Edwards stopped yet, Ben? He hasn't, has he? And neither has Canapino.
There's quite a few people not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who haven't stopped. So Krohn and Highstand are in, and Shinji Mishimi is also in pits this lap, but
Oh.
I'm interested to see if anybody can replicate what Bruno Spengler's done in the pits.
Into the pit lane for Jack Hawksworth in the number 14 Vassar Sullivan BMW. Corey Lewis for the 48 Paul Miller racing car. Kenton Cook in the number 80. Another unlucky race for Kenton. He'll be counting the cost of that little tap earlier on, but he is back up inside the top 20. It's going to be key for me as the number 47 Ford of Rodrigo Luca is back on the track, but now way down the running, and we've seen Rodrigo sometimes not get the same pace out the car after his pit stop. Key for me now, the strategy of Tandy and Googan. How much longer can they go? That they've now done 45 minutes. They've got 45 to go. Are they just splitting the race in half? This is a bold strategy from the two Porsches. As Nick said, if the competition caution comes out now, they are toast. Their goose is cooked.
But this is a very different race from any of the previous ones we've had in this series, John, because everybody is taking tyres. Tyres has become de rigueur, where before it was the alternate strategy. So as the leaders both come in, it's to be raced to get out again. And then a second in it to be easier for Ayachan to try and jump in with a clever strategy. But as everyone's taking time, they may be able to pick up. They're on cold tyres and they go out. So the first couple of laps out are going to be really, really critical.
Note as well that Shinya Mishimi actually not only designed but painted the car himself for his livery. In comes Robbie Foley as well. So Canapino's gone to the lead. Augustin Canapino. Now, Ben, remind me, did Canapino make an early stop in that number 66 car?
No, he's yet to stop. Amazingly, he's one of the very few drivers also not to have a single off track. We've got some guys that have got 14 or 15 off track, and he is so clean he's not done one. One driver who has replicated Spengler's strategy was Shinji Mishimi, a 35-second pit stop or stop. As I watch the two Porsches in pit lane, they're getting their fuels right now. I'm waiting for them to go up on the jacks and change their tyres.
Well, let's see who comes around. Mirko Bortolotti has been in and out of the pits, of course. He's just jumped up the night. I think he's the first person who's made a pit stop. He's gone across the line now. Here comes Fluker. Fluker comes out and beats the Porsches out. Beats the Porsches out. So as you were in terms of the lead, but now cars with heating tyres, and who got out fastest? Oh, and off! That's the BMW going around. That was the number 79 car. So that means it was Roman De Angelis in the heart of racing. Aston Martin ended car. And that was, again, coming out of turn one. I've seen that so many times. Just got onto the dirt and goes to the other side and hits the wall on driver's right. So Canapino leads now, but he owes us a pit stop from Westbrook. See above comment. Tincknell the same. I think Bortolotti's had a stop, but was that stupidly early on?
No, he didn't come. He didn't get out the pits until about half a lap. He was in the pits at the start of the race.
Aye, I see. Right, okay. So what happened to the 79 car? Was he on his own? He's offline. He's just offline, and he's going to hit the dirt and then come around. And even with all that lock that a BMW's got on, I'm afraid Roman can't hold on to it and bounces off the tyres. Might not have done too much damage there because he hit the tyres fairly slowly.
So the net effect.
So John, we've got the top three now in the pits. Westbrook, Canapino and Tincknell. Just Bortolotti and Braun now who have not pitted. And really the man who has picked up a huge amount from this, John Edwards, is ahead of Rodrigo Fluker. And Fluker is, I reckon, 5th overall now.
What's happened to Fluker though? I thought we saw him go.
No, it was. He had a slow stop, John, even compared to these.
But I thought we saw
other BMWs. No, it was different. It was a different one.
It was a different Ford, was it?
Yeah, different black Ford. It's the black Ford we can see ahead of the two cars now. I'm not quite sure. Is that Bortolotti?
Bortolotti.
Or Colin Brown, yeah.
No, it's Bortolotti. Bortolotti in the Triple Eight, who now leads the race. Bortolotti in the Triple Eight lead. So that wasn't Fluker that I saw coming round. It was Bortolotti. Spengler has made up some positions, and I reckon now he is net third position behind the two Porsches. So
But
Bortolotti,
fuel saver.
Bortolotti, Tandy has just gone by Colin Braun. Has he got it done? He has. And now through goes Guven. Colin Brown's a sitting duck because he's got a damaged car. So Bortolotti leads, going up under the Corvette bridge to turn 5. He's got 6.5 seconds on Nick Tandy, and Ayachan Guven is another half a second further back. Then Spengler in 4th. That'll be net 3rd. Colin Brown still owes us a pit stop as well. So then there'll be John Edwards, then Rodrigo, then Richard Highstand, then Jesse Cron, Robbie Foley, Philip Eng, and Conor De Filippi will be your top 10 when everybody stops. Bortolotti with the teal blue accents on the dark coloured Ford, and apologies for not picking that up earlier on. My mistake. I thought that was Fluker coming back around in front, but we've seen this consistently, Ben, that Fluker's pit stops are not the best. It was exactly the same when he came out of a really good position. He was leading, in fact, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and he seemed to have a much longer stop than everybody else. And after that, his pace just wasn't there.
Yeah, he spent 90 seconds on the pit limiter, so it really was one of the slowest stops that anybody has offered us. We've just got a couple of cars yet to stop still. Colin Brown is the first of those, and Mirko Bortolotti comes into pits right this second.
Ben, if he spent 90 seconds, that's pretty much full fuel and tyres and the transit down the pit lane. So he's not working his fuel numbers, is he? He's not saying, this is how much I need to get to the end. That was pretty much a full tank of fuel.
And all of these cars will have maps as the yellow flag has come out. So this is a caution.
Full course yellow as Nick Tandy goes through, and Bortolotti had just pitted. So this is great news for him because he'll be able to get out and he'll make up a huge amount of ground on the leaders because they won't be at full speed. The pits are now close, and we're hearing that the pace car will come out onto the track, out of pit lane. Safety car lighter on. He'll be out at the next lap. Let's take a breather. We have got 52 minutes having been elapsed, so we're just over half distance. It's WeatherTech Presents IMSA Racing at Road America, and we're live.
WeatherTech has been supporting the American economy and American jobs for decades. Our innovative products offer the ultimate protection for your vehicle. One of our newest is the WeatherTech Cup Phone. It fits virtually any size cup holder and keeps your phone secure and by your side even while charging. And the desk phone is perfect for hands-free viewing in the home. Order the American-made Cup Phone or desk phone at WeatherTech.com.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
The safety car lights are on. This is the competition caution, overcast, and now rolling the Porsche safety car from the end of pit lane. Welcome. If you are just joining us, it's John Hindhaugh, Nick Damon, and Ben Constanduris in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. And Nick Tandy leads from his Porsche junior teammate in the real world, Ayachan Guven, and also in the virtual world as well. Just under 42 minutes still to go. Coming through in third will be Bruno Spengler, who played an absolute blinder in that pit stop because, Ben, you were watching this and he was, 10, 12, 13 seconds quicker on pit road, and that has to be down to just taking less fuel. Is he rolling the dice on the numbers?
Well, what you can do is you can select a different map like you could do in a real car. So he could have been running with a low fuel map. He didn't star in the first half of the race.
Good point.
He really wasn't at a decent pace, but to have saved that much fuel would be very impressive. John Edwards has done the same thing, and Shinji Mishimi has also done the same thing. Looking down the board, there are not many other drivers who have got a sub 40-second stationary stop. So let's keep a look at what John Edwards can do in his BMW and Shinji Mishimi in his Porsche. Have they been able to also save lots of fuel?
Nick Damon, and I'm not sure how we can find this out, the responsible adult will be listening, and maybe BMW Motorsport might want to tell us. This in from Bankai. Did Spengler only take 2 tyres in the stop? The default, as Sean McCarthy said, 4 tyres and full fuel are the default setting in the pit stop, but you can mess about with that. Have a think about that. Let's see what we can find out. BMW, let us know. Let's have a Mazda race rundown then. In behind the safety car, Nick Tandy leads from his teammate Einchan Guven with Bruno Spengler, John Edwards for BMW. Then a trio of blue ovals led by pole sitter Rodrigo Luca, who hasn't done too badly out of that. And of course, that time that he lost in the pit lane now is negated. He's right on the back of the 4 cars ahead of him. Colin Brown, a little bit of a false position in 6th on the Konica Minolta standings because he has not done his pit stop yet. Richard Highstand in the green and tangerine car in 7th for Ford, and the rest of the top 10 are BMWs. Jesse Krohn, Robbie Foley, who'll be cursing his bad luck again, and Philip Eng, who's been quietly just sitting around there. Outside the top 10, it's more BMWs. Conor De Filippi, Augustin Canapino in the Youngcost Racing Ferrari, that green, orange and white car, ahead of Nicky Katzberg, Richard Westbrook for Ford, Joel Miller for Ferrari. Ferrari's doing better than we've seen them in the opening rounds of this series. Harry Tincknell in the 55 Ford, then a couple of Porsches. Shinji Mishimi with his homemade colour scheme on that car. When I say that, he didn't just design it, he actually painted it himself and put a great time-lapse video up on his Twitter feed. Lawrence Vanthoor is up inside the top 20. He'll be pleased with that. Shane van Gisbergen has not been a factor today. The quick Kiwi has been very quiet. Now, will we see him unleashed with somewhere in the region of 40 minutes to go and making up the top 20, Kyle Masson and the Mazda race rundown. So what do you reckon, Nick? Are we looking at a 2-stop strategy for Spengler?
No, I think the idea of a 2-tyre strategy actually is probably...
Sorry, 2 tyres, that's what I meant.
Has actually banged the nail on the head because who's come in?
Colin Brown, who orders one, Joel Miller, and Robert, all the guys who order stops, yeah.
So going back into if you think about that, would actually save you about that amount of time, which is 13 seconds. And if you look at the track is all about the left-hand side of the car. Every single fast turn is left-hander. Turn 1, turn 3, the massively tyre-wearing turn 9 through 10, the carousel, the kink at 11, even counter corner at 12. It's all the fast stuff is left-hand. So left-hand tyres is the way to go. And certainly, the big winner of the championship advisor Bruno Spengler coming into this pit stops, he was 3 positions behind Nicky Katzberg. Coming out of them, he's 9 positions ahead of him.
In behind the safety car. And the Porsche at the front of the field showing a little bit of the detritus in and out of the pits for the great livery for, that's Daniel Serra in the 82 Risi Competizione Michelin livery car. And he's out on the back of the crocodile of cars. So we're going to have about, guys, I reckon 35 minutes to go to the end. And I think it's a fair bet now, and good spot from those of you who've tweeted at IMSA Radio. Spengler maybe only took 2 tyres. Kenton Cook with his usual message on the rear wing. Please try and do your best. Didn't have quite enough room for that, so it's a bit, you know, like when you're on Twitter and you're running out of characters and you have to find a different way of saying it. Told us after Sebring, when he was running a Porsche, of course, at Sebring, he's changed to the Ford since then, but that bright fluorescent pink, he's been running it in sim races for quite some time now, and he said, I've never been running to once all the time I've been racing. Well, that's changed.
He's run into about 4 times in this series.
Yeah, it just makes him a target here. He might want to change his colour scheme.
Has he used magnetic paint by accident?
Yes, could do. Maybe he's using the same paint as Turner BMW, because who are Robbie Foley seems to be up there. John Edwards has improved as well through the pit stop cycle, started on row 6 and is now up to 4th position.
I think he's taken 2 tyres as well, John.
Yeah, I agree.
So you've got 2 of them take 2 tyres, you've got the Porsches who've got 4 fresh tyres and a nice tank of fuel and the pace. So interestingly, is this an attacking strategy by Spengler to try and win the race, or a defensive strategy against Katzberg to actually try and just gain championship points?
And also, I should mention, just outside the top 10 in 11th position, we didn't get, I don't think I mentioned, oh no, I did mention it, Augustin Canapino, the Ferrari. That is a stunning run for a Ferrari. We've not seen a Ferrari, Ben, that far up the field in the races so far in the IMSA iRacing Pro Series.
No, exactly, and that's what happens when you put an alien in his kind of performance. Such is his iRating that his performance right now in 11th position will drop him 27 iRating points.
Right.
He will actually lose points because of where he is right now. Aykan Guven would gain 13, sitting in 2nd position. That's all worked out by the different performance of each car.
Going green, Ben, and confirmed from BMW, just 2 tyres for Spengler and Edwards. That's come through from the responsible adult who's been in contact with BMW and they all spread out across the line. Tanya gets a decent start. Guven's been swallowed up already by Bruno Spengler. Spengler round the outside. He's going for the lead. Down the inside, here comes Guven, and there's a Ford in there. That's Fluger in there as well. Round the outside, the number 11. Will that car hold on? Where did that grip come from? Richard Heistand somehow kept it together. The top 3 have broken away, and Spengler's up into 3rd. Round the outside, John Edwards in the dark BMW. He's side by side with Fluger. Then Heistand is side by side with John Edwards. Oh my goodness me. Jesse Krohn right in there as well in another one of the dark BMWs. Still a bit overcast on the far side of the circuit. 1, 2, 3, 4 wide for a moment, going down into turn number 5. In there as well, Philip Eng in the red and white car. That's somebody. Oh, and into the kitty litter. Jesse Krohn in the 24 BMW. That was at turn 5. Robbie Foley's in the mix there as well. And so is Augustin Canapino, dives down the inside. That's a smooth manoeuvre at turn 7. Into the Hurry Downs now and into turn 8 before the start of the carousel. And this gaggle of cars, which really is from John Edwards back over Richard Heistand. So 23 BMW John Edwards, then the 11 Ford, Richard Heistand, the green and tangerine car. Philip Eng in the red and white BMW is in 6th. Then Fluger in the 47 Ford, the dark coloured Ford. Robbie Foley in the blue and orange 96 BMW. Then Canapino side by side for the lead. Top 3 together into Canada corner. Remember, Spengler's only got 2 left-hand side Michelin tyres. The 2 Porsches ahead had 4 tyres, but we saw, Nick Damon, did we not, that in the first run when the Porsches were heavy, they had to be super careful how they brought the tyres up the temperature. Whereas we've seen in the past, the BMW is super consistent as a platform all the way through its fuel run.
Yeah, I think that first lap was their best chance, and certainly when you put that the hammer down going across the line, it was certain the BMWs did much better. But the star of that was definitely Richard Heistand, who I think was nudged about 11 times and still kept the car on the island. Amazing stuff. Look at the green car. I mean, this is the end of it, but he's been hit touched so many times. And that was a triple squeeze, which resulted in Jesse Krohn falling off.
That was at turn 5 later in the lap.
Heistand was just wobbling about because he was getting nudged left, right, and centre, but he's got himself into 5th. Yeah, I mean, Spengler now, possibly with the Porsches getting up to temperature, and also more important, it's interesting that Ayhan Guven was better on the restart than Tandy, and I think that's experience both of really of how an iRacing restart works, with the tyre temperature and everything else.
And into the pits for Jesse Krohn. So it is now a dogfight to the end of the race. There's no quarter to be asked or given, and they've got to hope, in Spengler's case, that he's got enough fuel on board. Although, having said that, if he only took 2 tyres, that's an extra 13 seconds worth of fuel that he got, and that puts him exactly where everyone else was, because Ben told us he was about 13 seconds quicker. So that's where it's come. Just 2 tyres, left side tyres only, for the very light on its loafers BMW M8. Now the 2 Porsches now starting to get into their stride. Meantime, the battle for 5th behind Richard Heistand, the red and white BMW, is Philip Egg in the BMW Team Austria car. Then it's Rodrigo Luca, who is in a better position after the pit stops than we've seen him so far, and he still clearly has some pace in the car that was on pole position. Egg looking at the back. Just can't help but see angry birds now since somebody told me about that on the Ford GT. Look at it. It is absolutely there, isn't it?
One of the pigs.
Yeah, going up the hill through turn 14. Beautiful design, the back of that car. If you get to see a Ford GT in close proximity, and Nick, you've done this plenty of times, there's actually a hole in the middle of that rear light. That round rear light's got a hole in it. It's like a donut. And there is a vortex generator within that light to spin the air out from underneath the engine compartment so that it doesn't mess the rear wing up so much. Fortunately, Heistand messed up turn 1 there, and down the inside goes Egg.
He was too busy blocking. He did that thing where he was so busy blocking that he actually then ignored the fact he had to get a line to the next corner. He'd be better off staying on line rather than coming up and sweeping back and back on again. He had the racing line to turn 1. He's about to get nudged off again.
Foley down the inside took the opportunity. There's no time for messing about now. What we're seeing now is everybody. Oh, there's a touch, and that was Fluker on Philip Eng. Oh, the huge Robbie Foley's in there, and that looked like Canapino. I think that was Canapino in the Ferrari as well, in the Junkos car. All coming out of turn 5. That was all a bit unnecessary. I was just about to say, though, the gloves are off now. Everybody's had their pit stops. It's a run to the flag, and every position you can make up has to be done right here, right now. Robbie now has dropped down in front of the other yellow BMW. That's Tristan Fortier, isn't it? Yes, it is. And Kyle Masson behind him. The pink Porsche, which is just ahead, is Shinya Mishimi.
Big winner of that kerfuffle was Nicky Katzberg, who picked up 3 positions now, moved into 8th. So he's bridging that gap between himself and Spengler for the championship.
Cautions breed cautions, gents, don't they? And we've had so many people now visit the pits. Matt Bell and Mirko Bottolotti got together directly after we went green, and they are both out of the race now. Matt Griffin in the pits, Colin Braun in the pits, Felipe Nasr has just come out of the pits, Sebastian Prio's in the pits, and Canapino's now in the pits as well.
So what happened down at turn 5? Heistands gets the run on driver's left. Maybe he didn't hit Fluker.
No.
Fluker just hit the car alongside him, and that was Eng. And then Robbie Foley and Canapino got together in trying to avoid the schmozzle that was going on in front of them. Mishimi has got company. Harry Tincknell down the inside. No, Mishimi's gone round the outside. So Mishimi goes into 12th. Tincknell in 13th. So that was a position made up by Shinya Mishimi. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion a couple of 3 years ago in IMSA competition. So just to confirm, at the front of the field, Nick Tandy and Aichan Guven in the Porsches took 4 Michelin tyres at their pit stop just before the competition yellow came out. More contact for Ken Cook there. Bruno Spengler and John Edwards, we think, only took 2 tyres apiece. In fact, confirmed by BMW, wasn't it? Richard Heistand took all 4. Fluker took all 4. That's your top 6. Eng now damaged. Oh, and now hits the back of Fluker. That was Eng into the back of Fluker, and Fluker's gone off. Fluker is way off the circuit and dropping down.
Yep.
And that was down into turn 8 at the bottom of Hurry Downs, wasn't it? Another one of those downhill, and he got ushered off the circuit unceremoniously. He's the one thing about Rodrigo, I would say, and he wasn't at the start of the race for a pole position, but normally he's not quite as confident on cold tyres, Nick, and I think that sometimes is frustrating for the guys behind him. He managed to get the drop at the start because of a really clever tactic, and he floored the throttle early, but on that restart he's been mired in the pack, and I just don't think he has the confidence under braking.
I think there's an aggression level which has been ramped up to 10 since the with full court caution, and perhaps some of the more gentlemanly drivers don't fit it so well. But what happened here then?
Well,
this is Fluker on the right hand as we look at it.
Yeah, Fluker down the inside to turn 5, and it's going to be up the top of the hill. I just saw him shooting off. He defends, then he gets hit once at turn number 6. Now turn 7. This is super quick. He braked. He was on the wrong line and he braked. He gets hit again. So now down at the bottom of the hill is where it all happens. So what? He braked really early.
Very, very early. I think he knew he was offline.
Moving in the braking zone as well, Nick. I don't think he's got any.
I know what happened there, because it happens to people like me who are let's say beginners. Is you get your kind of rhythm destroyed, and therefore you make as much as Yellow's been a mistake. He was knocked off course 2 or 3 times, and suddenly your brain snaps and thinks, I better brake early. I'm in the wrong line. I brake. But he braked at least, I suppose 20 virtual or 50 virtual meters too early there. So what was Eng supposed to do? He's expecting a similar situation from before. So a little bit of an architect of his own destruction, I'm afraid. There was
Rodrigo.
Sorry, I've got Kenny Cook in my brain. Then because I look at the purple car.
That's the car.
I know, the purple car's on the screen. That's all you can see.
Ayachan Guven has just put in the new fastest lap of the race as he tries to deal with his team leader, I suppose. Heistand in 11th position, looking back from his car. At the moment, the next car back is Harry Tincknell. Should be able to see him. He's not that. Heistand is the number 11 car. He's in 5th position. Philip Eng is about 4 seconds further back. Now, I was talking earlier on about how clever the Ford is in terms of aero in real life, and it's modelled painfully exactingly in iRacing. Remember, I was talking about the vortex generator in the rear lights. There's also almost a flying buttress on the outside of the car, and that's the camera that you're seeing on the left-hand side of the screen. And those blue LED lights, marker lights on those cars, are on an area that wouldn't be allowed on an LMP1 car, because you're not allowed a wing profile that isn't a front or rear wing. But that flying buttress on the side of the car is a wing profile. It was designed like that. The car was designed as a race car and retro-engineered to a street car, and that's what clever, out-of-the-box thinking does for you. This was a car that was built for the wide open spaces of Le Mans, and it went and won first time out. It should be well suited to here, but the best Ford at the moment is Richard Heistand, that number 11 car, and he's in 5th position at the moment, ahead of a cracking battle between Philip Eng and Nicky Cashberg.
I'm beginning to wonder, John, because we've now seen 4 races where the Fords have started well and had themselves bullied out of position. Yes. I'm just wondering whether they're more susceptible to the little taps and bangs than the other cars. Perhaps they're just not as planted. Perhaps if you tap the rear of a Ford, it does more, or perhaps they're on the edge more. They're a less raceable car in company.
Well, interestingly, in the real world, the rear diffuser of the Ford was one of the first cars. Everybody's got them now, including even Porsche, because remember, Porsche turned the engine and gearbox around to get the bigger rear diffuser. But the Ford was the first one that had a diffuser out the back that looked like a school's cycle shed. You could, stand underneath it and not get wet in a thunderstorm, to be honest. And the joke always was, right, whose turn is it to take that off at turn 1 this week, so we've all got a chance of winning, and you might have a point there. You might actually have a point. On board with Robbie Foley, that's the BMW engine you can hear in the background. He is looking forwards at Richard Westbrook.
And as you look in this cockpit view, just so you know, when he looks at the instrument display, all those zeros aren't zeros. They're giving him information, but that information will be valuable to other people in the race. So it's blanked off for the onboard camera. But yes, he's got tyre pressures, tyre temperatures, he's got gears, he's got what level of traction control he's selected, all sorts of information, many of which can be changed. But just for the onboard, it's all zeroed, and all we can see is things that are obvious, which is the gear and the revs.
That's interesting. I bet they wish they could do that in real life. Ben Constantinos has been watching what's going on in other parts of the track and in the pit lane as well. What's caught your eye since the restart, Ben?
I mean, following Ayçen Guven, just to see, because you mentioned that he got the fastest lap of the race the last 2 laps to go. The next lap into that, he got right onto the tail of Nick Tandy. He then ran a little bit wide, dipped his wheel into the gravel and lost 0.3 of a second. The gap went back out to 0.7 of a second. It's now less than half a second again, and he is definitely the faster of the 2 Porsches here. They, as I said a little bit earlier on, Porsche were surprised about BMW's performance in the first couple of races. They have been a massive advocate of iRacing. They support and sponsor the World Championship of iRacing, where all the very best iRacers participate. Oh, and there's a Ferrari that spun in front of Guven. Guven's collected him, and that's damage to the Turkish driver.
That's Matt Griffin, the Irishman, and Guven's charge to the front has been halted. By the way, Jim van Gisbergen started in 20th position, is now up to 9th. So he is still very much in the fight here, only 15 seconds away from the lead. So Tandy is leading through. Oh, Matt just went wide. Oh, huge shunt from Ayçen Guven, and he's got damage.
Matt was trying to get out the way, and in getting out the way, he got on the grass and just lost it. It's one of those things where you kind of you try and jump out the way of the leader. That's a big impact. He's going to. It's how much damage has Ayçen got? Is it going to be a second lap? Is it 2 seconds? Oh, it's a huge amount. Oh, that's such bad luck. And he's dropping out. Spengler gains again. Also, John, just whilst that was happening elsewhere, Kenton Cook has got past.
Look at the steering wheel on that car.
Steering's bent. We're seeing it on the. So, even if we can't see external damage sometimes on the cars, the modelling and the way the dynamics of the cars work, the driver will be feeling that. Now, we're seeing it on the onboard camera with the steering not being straight. That will translate exactly to Ayçen's rig back at home. It's getting out the way. We can see some panel damage on the front and the right front of that Porsche, because what we can't see is the damage to the steering arms and the suspension that has been sustained by that heavy impact to the Racing Competizione Ferrari. Poor Matt Griffin.
And John,
Go ahead, Ben.
I'm watching the chat with Maximilian Beneke, who is here to help Porsche win this race, and effectively throwing his hands up like an Italian with that move and disconnecting out of the spectator server, such as his disgust at what has happened. Interestingly, he's saying on the chat that he doesn't understand about the blue flag rule. I think these drivers have been told to get out of the way after we saw so much issue in the first couple of races with back markers. They've been told to get out the way. Matt Griffin was trying to get out the way and actually got too much out the way and lost the car.
Yeah, because that's a really good point, Ben, because the way it's supposed to be is that the faster driver is the one who goes offline. The slower driver stays online, perhaps slows down a bit, but then the faster driver, the lapping driver, goes offline to get past. If you're jumping out the way, that's when confusion can happen. Unfortunately, with Matt, he went off the track and spun. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, there is obviously we see the accident, we see a smash, we see panel damage, but it is modelled down to the suspension. I had a very minor knock in a race a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, why is my steering completely off? When I rewound it, I saw the car had actually broken my rear toe arm, which is modelled as well, which is very annoying. I can tell you on a light impact.
Guven in the pits. He'll use his fast repair, but that's his chance of a decent result gone. A couple of Ferraris having a scrap further down the field. The 82 is Joel Miller, and he's got Jeff Siegel behind him. The 82 is the Michelin car, and coming down through the far side of the circuit, that's a turn 3 now onto the middle straight, if you will. And hearing there's been another Porsche incident. That's Lawrence Vanto, and he comes through the final corner and loses it. Oh no, yes, it is the final corner. And as why didn't you put the foot on the brake? He's held it there and get reverse. Come on, Lawrence. Oh, I don't believe what he's just done. Westy just missed him. Oh, but who's that? That's the 19 Porsche. That is Parker Chase. Oh, all from the avoidance, and he goes straight into the pit lane. How did Richard Westbrook miss Lawrence Vantor in that Ford? Meantime, still the battle of the Ferraris, 27th and 28th. The Michelin and the Hublot livery cars. Nice to see that Michelin livery. That's another Andy Blackmore design.
Championship leader Nicky Katzberg's had a bad lap. He's dropped back two further positions to 9th, with Van Gisbergen and Shinya Michimi have both gone past him. So now 9th place Katzberg, 2nd place Spengler in the championship battle.
Now this is Westy coming to the final corner. There's mayhem going on ahead with Lawrence Vantor. He's about to come out through the track. He can't see him because of the ABS. Oh my goodness me! And Parker Chase was just taking the avoiding action. Westy has the reflexes of a cat on energy drink. That was
a younger man.
Of a young. Once again, I'm gonna volunteer you for the diplomatic service, Constantinos. Let's take a look at this in slow-mo. There goes the Porsche off the track. Which way do I go? Oh, I'm going that way. Do you know what? Vantor was even still sliding back towards the middle of the road there. There's already damage on Westy's car.
If I can set Ben a task, there's been some big comings together around the 6th to 11th position. Van Gisbergen's down to 16th, Katzberg's 11th, Tincknell's swapped around. Something's happened there, and we have Michimi now in 7th. There's been a big scuffle in that 7, 8, 9, 10 left position, and big loser is Van Gisbergen, and the small loser is Nicky Katzberg.
Just before we took another look at the Westy incident, Shinya was right up alongside. Now, who would that have been? I think that might have been Van Gisbergen that he was
dropped down,
So 86 and 97, I reckon, were pretty close together, and we'll get a replay of that in a moment. Meantime, at the front of the field, Spengler hasn't lost the sight of Nick Tandy. Right, what happened? I saw Shinya making down the inside, a little bit wide from Van Gisbergen. He defends down the hill to turn 3. Oh, and Shinya nails him. Absolutely nails him. Van Gis goes off, SVG's off, and then I think there was still more to come behind that. Robbie Foley has moved up a position, Michimi and Filippi as well, of course, and Van Gisbergen, who charged up to 9th position, having restarted after the competition caution in 20th. Sunshine beginning to come out all around the circuit now as Nick Tandy has a 1.2 second lead with under 13 minutes to go. Now, our Porsche keys
John,
to the... Go ahead, Ben.
That's come down a lot.
Whilst you're watching that accident, Conor De Filippi did get into the back of Harry Tincknell and turned Harry Tincknell sideways. Actually delayed Conor De Filippi as well, and that's why Shinji Michimi managed to make up progress and up into 7th.
Right.
And also that lead that Tandy had came down by about 2.5 to 3 seconds. Spengler was 4 and a bit back, and now it's down to 1.7. So something's happened there. We don't have a last lap time for Nick Tandy, so Nick had a slight issue in that last lap and lost 2.5 seconds.
May have just been traffic, of course. We're going to have to keep an eye. Remember, 4 new tyres for Tandy at his one stop. Spengler gambled just the left side on the BMW. John Edwards has dropped 5 seconds further back, and he's got close company from Richard Heidstand for the last spot on the podium. Porsche, BMW, then it's Ford. And Kenton Cook, another great drive back to 5th position. And he has been battered like a haddock on a Friday night at a chip shop.
Well,
it's
he got
unbelievable.
As far as turn 5 before he was punted off and smacked by 2 other cars. And he got himself back, just 36 laps and 10 corners later, he's got himself back to 5th.
If only he could get going at the early part of the race. 35th he dropped down to, and he's run as high as 4th, currently sits in 5th position. And ahead of him, Richard Heidstand, John Edwards are having a cracking battle, and they're slowing each other up, and he's right onto them. In there as well, the 71 of Matt Bell. He's lapped now in the Rebel Rock Racing BMW, and Edwards and Heidstand carving their way through traffic as the shadows are getting longer late into the afternoon, Road America time. A bit wide there from Matt Bell, as this battle for the third spot on the podium continues through turn number 7. Love that corner. Turn it in, hook the inside with the right front wheel, and then get on the throttle. The moment you turned in, you've got to be on the throttle and going through there in 4th. So we've got a problem for Harry Tincknell. Now, this was at turn 6 a few moments ago, and he is sideways, getting pushed. I think so.
I think so, yeah. I think that was a little nudge, or maybe a netcode nudge, but he certainly was helped off. That wasn't him just spinning it.
Again, though.
That would have been Nicky Katzberg, I think, the BMW behind him.
Yeah, I agree. Foley now having a look at Conor De Filippi, 2 BMW side by side, coming to Canada corner. The inside, the red car has the line as they go into the right-hander. Now round the outside, kicking. How much dirt is there on the outside there on that flat tarmac curb? Now coming to the final corner, the right-hander up the hill. Robbie Foley in 4th position. In 9th position. He's been as high as 4th, looking at 8th, right ahead of him. Conor De Filippi, Shinji Mishimi in 7th, Philip Eng in 6th, Kenton Cook 5th, Richard Heistand battling with John Edwards, 4th and 3rd, Spengler back out to 1.8 seconds behind Nick Tandy, who still leads. That's your Mazda race rundown, with now just under 10 minutes to go. Where's your money, gentlemen? Ben Constanturis, can Spengler catch the leader?
No, definitely not. Not with just 2 tyres on his car. John Edwards is the same. They both don't have the grip to get to the end of this race. Nick has got better tyres. So mixing the pound seat, the question for me is, what about the Fords behind?
Here comes Heistand, goes to the long way round, tries to go Buffalo Gals into turn number 5. Didn't get around the outside, under the Corvette Bridge into 6. Again, you're turning in without really being able to see the centre, the apex of the corner. Now to 7. Absolutely flat changed up at the apex there. Heistand knows he's got a grip advantage on John Edwards ahead of him. That's 3rd place. That's a step on the podium for the Ford driver. That car's not immaculate. It's got some damage on the front. And John Edwards, Nick Damon, is going to have to drive very defensively for the last 18 minutes. And Kenton Cook is coming as well. And Cook is coming and dragging Philip Eng with him. Is he? No, Eng's a little bit. No, Eng is there. Yeah, Eng is there with Kenton Cook. So they're coming to catch this battle for 3rd.
Edwards has got an uncomfortable last 8 minutes. I think Spengler is very safe in 2nd, and if Tandy makes a mistake, he'll get the win. The question I'm asking myself is, how much further can Nicky Katzberg get up the field? He's in 10th, but at the back of a train of cars could take him as far as 6th, and he needs to get as much up as possible, because currently he's hemorrhaging points in the championship battle to his teammate Bruno Spengler.
Shinji Mishimi puts his best lap of the race in 2:01.7, and that's as quick as anybody. Only Spengler and Nick Tandy quicker than him last time around, and those two are 1st and 2nd, or should I say 2nd and 1st, the way I mentioned them. Down into turn 1, Heistand, and again John Edwards just puts his car in the middle of the road, but it's not the ideal line, it's not the optimum, it's slowing them both down. And Cook and Philip Eng are coming round the outside again from Heistand. Now he's on the dirt and he's had to lift off, and this is the opportunity for Kenton Cook. He'll get a draft from the Ford, and what about the red-white BMW? To the right-hand side of the circuit, on the middle straight, Kenton Cook. Oh, those 2 Fords, as you might imagine, very evenly matched into the braking area for 5. Kenton's got the run round the outside. Can he tough it out? And here comes Eng. Eng's going to put himself between the 2 Fords, threads the eye of the needle, goes up 2 positions, but has to give best to Heistand. Almost got from 6th to 4th there in one fell swoop, but had to drop back into 5th. But Kenton Cook, so difficult to attack and defend at the same time, and has to give best, but he will get another chance, I'm sure, because John Edwards is the cork in the bottle here, Ben, and he in 3rd position at the moment. He's got a breathing space at the moment, but he's got 6 more minutes to go, and that is going to be 3 laps at an absolute minimum, Ben.
Yeah, Philip Eng is one of the fastest men on the circuit right now, in traffic as well. In the 2:01.3s, the 2 guys ahead of him, 2:02s. John Edwards is really over a second slower than Nick Tandy right now. and he's driving incredibly defensive, and he could do that for 5-6 minutes. I think that's possible. To try and do that for an hour and a half, impossible, but right now he's only got a couple of more laps to hold on.
It's Ben Constantiouris with Nick Damon and me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, and this is really hotting up again. Nick Tandy, 2.5 seconds to the good from Bruno Spengler, the man of the season so far. Let's have a look at the gap. Tandy through turn number 1, goes over the top of the rise, through the little kink at 2 and down to 3. Where's Spengler? What does 2.5 seconds look like? It's about 15 cars length, maybe a little bit less than that. They're both on the back or the middle straight together. John Edwards is a further 7.3 seconds behind, and at the moment it's 2.5 to 3 tenths the advantage that Tandy has got over Spengler, but John Edwards is really losing out in the corners. He's quick down the straights in that BMW. Huge dive down the inside to 5, and there's a touch. There's a touch. High stand hits the back of the BMW of John Edwards. He had to brake early. Only 2 tyres at the 1 pit stop there, and through goes Eng. Eng's through, and that's Eng on the podium. Philip Eng in the Team Austria car, the red and white 26, on the podium again. That was precipitated by high stand coming from a long way back, Nick Damon, but he must have felt he had the grip, and I feel a little bit sorry for John Edwards, but he was fighting a rearguard battle.
Well, both Kenton Cook and Highstand were obviously feeling they were better with their forwards on the brakes than the 2 BMW, but realistically, Highstand has committed a bit of a foul. He'll get away with it, but the stewards will be looking at that one, I think. There's a punt off.
How far back did he come? Oh, but no, the BMW moves in the braking area. That wasn't the racing line.
It swerved. He's still got rear-ended a good 10-15 mile an hour difference in speed. So, massive accident in the background there. Kenton Cook.
That was Kenton Cook. Kenton Cook is off again, and he was that high stand again getting involved. And here comes Mashimi. Mashimi round the outside will be the one who takes 4th position and does so, and high stand's heading to the pit lane. I think he's got suspension damage, and that was through the fastest part of the circuit, through the kink, and there was literally no room to recover for Kenton Cook, man who now makes his home in North Carolina. Well, let's have a look. Well, Kenton has a look down the inside. He's alongside, comes into the braking area for Canada corner. Still alongside. High stand moved across on him.
No, he came. He wasn't alongside. Realistically, he should have backed out of that one. And I think
but that wasn't the line. I think that's not the line. You want to be as far across to the right as you possibly can. Why did High Stand turn
and
left?
Also, remember, High Stand would have still be getting a notification from the virtual spotter. There was a car there. He would know that. So that was a bit naughty.
Yeah. You wouldn't do... Well, I don't think you'd get away with that in real life. He needed to be across to the right to take as much speed through the next left-hander.
I'm not sure what they've made Kenton's car out of, but it's still running. It was running in 6th. I mean, it hit by every single thing possible, but it's surviving time.
Kenton gets a great run through the kink, and that's where he has the advantage. He's alongside coming in the braking area for Canada corner. Now, at this point, High Stand's exit is compromised, and he needs to be all the way across to the right, and he's not.
It's Kenton. Kenton has effectively pushed him round. I'm sorry, but that to me is Kenton. We have a long chat, but I think that in that situation, Kenton should just feather the throttle and come back again, because I didn't see High Stand changing a line at any point.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are more experienced in this than I am, I've got to tell you. But I think if I'd been High Stand, I'd been further across. Look at the time on the top left. And the clock says 1 minute 26 seconds, which means that our 90 minutes will run out on this lap, which makes this the last lap.
So the gamble paid off for Bruno Spengler, because he had no performance at the start of the race, and he's going to pick up P2.
Well, what he's done there, he's saved his right-hand side tyres, and as you say, he's made the best of a bad job, Ben, hasn't he? the BMWs weren't all conquering in qualifying as we've seen in the past. Once again, Rodrigo Luca proved the best of the qualifiers. He keeps the car on track and he gets a good lap. Couldn't translate that. He's been bounced around. He's running in 13th at the moment behind a recovering Shane van Gisbergen. But what about this for Porsche? 36 seconds left on the clock. Really should have had two cars there. Ayhan Guven unfortunately caught up in a spinning Ferrari with Matt Griffin trying to get out the way of the leader as he was being lapped, and lost the car at Bill Mitchell turn, the penultimate corner on the track. Spengler second. Philip Eng has done it again. He's carved his way through the field into third, and he's 3.5 seconds ahead of a very fast finishing Shinji Mishimi. John Edwards will probably about hold on to fifth. Then it's going to be Kenton in sixth, Robbie Foley in seventh, Connor De Filippi, as the white flag is confirmed, is in eighth, Nicky Katzberg in ninth, and AJ Allmendinger in 10th. So lots of BMW drivers there, but the position that counts goes to a man who is Porsche through and through these days. The man that started his career in racing on the short track ovals here in Northamptonshire, which is where I'm talking to you from. It's Porsche that wins at Road America. BMW second. Tandy takes it by just about 3 seconds from Spengler. That's great news for Spengler's championship, and the red and white BMW Team Austria car comes through in third. That is a great win for Tandy. It's great tactics for Spengler. Eng in third. Two Beamers on the podium behind their arch rivals Porsche. Tandy's car, pristine. Not a scratch on it. There's a little bit of tyre debris. Now, Foley's going to come through in fourth. Then it's Filippi. We'll give you the rundown in a moment. Nick Tandy down at turn 5. That's the traditional place for a few donuts. Well, Tandy, you could have done better than that, mate. That was
yeah, I think it was he'd be looking for the button to turn the traction control off, and that isn't necessarily easy to hand.
Stop. Let's not even go there. Absolutely not even go there.
No, it's allowed. It's allowed. TC, it's fine.
Right. Tandy from Spengler and Eng. That's your top three. There is your podium then at the WeatherTech Presents IMSA Racing, iRacing at Road America. Mishimi just off the podium in fourth. Good last third of the race for him. John Edwards, he'll count himself unlucky. He was sitting in third when he was unceremoniously turfed out of that. Kenton Cook up, down, and round at some stages. Finishes in the top 6 ahead of Robbie Foley, Connor De Filippi, Nicky Katzberg. Look at all the BMWs there. 6 BMWs in the top 10. The other 3 positions are Porsches. Porsche back in the game with AJ Allmendinger, his best result of the iRacing season so far in this IMSA Pro Series in 10th. Kalmason just outside the top 10. Van Gisbergen was on a charge, up from 20th to 9th when disaster struck him after the restart. Then Tincknell, Fluker, the pole sitter in 14th. Another bad second half of the race for Rodrigo. Not sure what he does in his pit stops, but it's not working for him. Then it's Richard Westbrook for Ford, BMW and Tristan Vautier, Daniel Morad, Corey Lewis, Jesse Cron, and Richard Highstand after his shenanigans finishes in 20th. Lawrence Vantour is 21st, Roman De Angelis 22nd, then Misha Goiberg, Earl Bamber, his opening of his account inside the top half. And that's exactly how Nick Tandy started a couple of races ago, ahead of Joel Miller, Townsend Bell, Robert Wickens in 27th, then Jeff Siegel for Ferrari. Augustin Canapino didn't get the rub of the green. He was caught up in someone else's accident, wasn't he, in turn 5. Parker Chase makes up the top 30. Then Matt Griffin off the lead and really unfortunately getting involved in that battle for the lead. Not his fault, I don't think. He was getting out the way. Then Riley Dickinson for Porsche, Matt Bell for BMW. I still want to say for Camaro. Ayhan Guven, not his day today. Really bad luck for the young Turk. Ben Keating, Tristan Nunez. Well, welcome to the big leagues, guys. That was a baptism of fire for both of those guys making their debut in the IMSA iRacing Series. Priaulx has still got no luck. Jack Hawksworth, Colin Brown, Mirko Bortolotti in the top 40. Beyond that, everybody had problems. See by how many laps they are down. Philip Nasser, Bomarito, Michael de Quesada, Dylan Murray, Alessandro Balzan, 29 laps off the lead. Philip Albuquerque, even worse for him. Aaron Telitz only did a couple of laps, and Will Hardeman didn't get to the start of the race. So that is round number 4. And welcome to Michelin Post-Race Tech as we head into our opportunity to speak to drivers. Let's have some thoughts. And whilst I'm waiting for the drivers, first of all, Ben Constanduris, what do you make of that? Tactics and speed. Our Porsche keys to the race were about the fuel and the tyres. That was the last couple of things we talked about. Well, Porsche got it pretty well. BMW, perhaps not with the flat-out speed that we thought would be a key. They actually played the strategy game pretty well to get Spengler into second.
And not just Spengler into second, but anybody who took those 2 tyres did really well out of it, because John Edwards finished 5th and Shinji Mishimi finished in 4th position. So that was the strategy, as long as you could make it work for yourself, knowing that the caution would come and concertina up the field. So if you pitted close to that, then you wouldn't lose too much. You wouldn't lose the massive gap that you might have lost in the first half of the race. And it's a really interesting strategy to look forward to as we move forward with this series, because it plays well not to waste too much of your energy in the first half of the race before that caution.
You bend it, you bought it. That was another one. It seems that applies to everybody apart from Kenton Cook, Nick Daman. That car didn't have a straight panel on it by the time it got back.
He has made that out of something incredibly tough. I think, the 2 things you take away from this is this fantastic performance by Nick Tandy. But you sit there going, what is it about the Fords that mean they can't run the second half of the race, either because they've broken down or because they've hit each other? It's almost like these cars are unraceable to the same level as the Porsches and the BMWs. And perhaps someone to sit down and work out, is our setup too nervous to allow it to be raced in close proximity?
Let's head to our Michelin Post-Race Tech driver interviews, and with a bit of luck, Nick Tandy, who I was going to say is only a stone's throw away. I'd have to have a canny arm to hit Nick down in Bedfordshire from where I am in Northamptonshire. Nick, welcome to the Michelin Post-Race Tech area and to the Haggerty broadcast booth. Well, about time, mate. You know, the Porsches had a decent run this time. Well done. Congratulations. What won that for you? Was that speed or tactics or a bit of both?
Well, thanks, John. I think there was a bit of motivation to get to bed, to be honest. No, it was really good because we've been working hard as as a team as such, and we were putting a lot of practice in. We didn't really have a great start to the esports series, but it's all paid off. A real shame that my teammate Jan didn't manage to back us up. And the most interesting part for me was I started having a few netcodes and complete screen freezes towards the end. So I hope it wasn't your dodgy North Bedfordshire internet, John.
We're taking all the bandwidth, Nick. Yeah, that's probably it. Were you aware that the BMWs behind you had only taken 2 tyres? And if so, did that make that outlap and the first few laps when they were close to you after the restart, did that make that super important for you to stay ahead?
I knew they got 2 tyres, and I don't know what happened to the Ford, but. When we came out in first and second, and we'd got 4 tyres, unfortunately we managed between us to mess the restart up. But luckily we got ahead, and we wanted to pull a gap, try and break the toe, because it's super powerful around Road America, like in when we go racing for real. So having a bimmer in your slipstream up the drag up the hill is not the thing we wanted. And then past that, it was just a case of trying to keep it clean. I managed to have a little half spin whilst I was not paying attention, but this is all part of the game. I'm just really pleased that we've managed to get a decent result and some sort of airtime for the people that have actually been helping me, and Lawrence and Jan and all of us. So yeah, thanks a lot to everyone.
Did I hear right that Maxi Beneke has been helping the Porsche guys out? 10K Beneke, as we call him, because of his iRacing.
Max, no. There's been a few famous faces from the sim racing world helping us, and luckily I've made friends with one of the best sim drivers in the world, Josh Rogers, who was kind of coaching me through today. So yeah, massive shout out to Josh, and thanks a lot for all his help calming me down and telling me just to keep it straight when I had these freezes. But yeah, all good in the end. We like to win, John, you know.
When you came back into this just a couple of races ago, you said you'd be happy to be in the top half, and then you managed to get up into the top 10. And it's been a while since you've done any competitive iRacing. Obviously, you've used sims in the past to learn circuits when you first went to the States. Has it perhaps even surprised you how quickly you've got back into it and how competitive you've been, given the quality of these drivers around you in this iRacing IMSA event?
Honestly, no. I think I was very disappointed with the first two rounds, to be honest. I mean, you clearly have to put in a lot of work. It's the same as anything. If you don't put the hours in, the practice in, you're never going to be any good. So I think I realised that quite early, and I've upgraded a few bits and pieces for my driving, which has helped. So yeah, it's nice to be competitive. I remember telling you before, I only enjoy the racing when you're competitive. So I enjoyed this one. It was good.
Car looks good, mate, and not a scratch on it. There's a little bit of tyre debris, but other than that, you can put it on the truck and polish it the next time you get it out. Nick Tandy, well done, mate.
We'll bring her out for VIR. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Nick Tandy then joining us here in Mission and Post Race Tech in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Some final thoughts from my two co-commentators, Nick Damon and Ben Constantinos. Nick, class act, Tandy. He's only been back 2 races, but he's super competitive, and he just wasn't happy with his performances at the last couple of races. Hello, Nick.
Professional. Hello.
Yes, sorry.
He already is about the most professional driver in professional motorsports, having won from ovals to track and everything in between. Now he's added esports to it. Fantastic performance. And I think he mentioned there's a huge amount of work that's been involved, and there's been a huge amount of catch up because BMW hit the ground running with the whole concept about making this professional operation from the engineers and the experts, and now the other 2 factories have got to catch up. And as I said, though, the big work needs to be done by Ford to make their car more raceable.
Yeah, and I don't know what happens in the second half of the race, to be honest. We're trying to get hold of Robert Wickens before we go off the air. And we'll see if we can grab another couple of interviews in the meanwhile. VIR, as Nick Tandy mentioned, Virginia International Raceway is the next stop on our tour. That's in a couple of weeks' time. Just a reminder, Nick Tandy wins the race, and I'm delighted to say that joining us in the Haggerty broadcast booth is Robert Wickens. Robert, that was a baptism of fire, my man. How did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was a baptism of something. It was fun. It was fun. I mean, honestly, I think it went about what I was expecting. I knew I wasn't going to have the pace to really fight up front, but I was just trying to keep clean and try to stay out of trouble. And I can happily say that I did not spin on my own the entire race. I don't think I went backwards the whole race either. It was more just crash avoidance the whole time. But we'll keep plugging away. It took me a long time to figure out how to drive one of these Porsche RSRs. I've never driven a touring car in iRacing before this, so I'm new to the whole experience. It was a lot of fun, and I can't thank BAF Motorsports and Motool for letting me drive their car.
Nice to see you back with Faf again as well. I had a relationship with them earlier on in your career. Did you enjoy it enough that you want to come back and do some more IMSA racing, either in the virtual world or even better in real life when you get back to driving?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a competitive guy. So the thing that right now, the only way I can make it to the finish of one of these virtual races is if I set like a target lap time for myself that I know is safe. But that kills me inside as a competitor because I want to keep pushing and try to find more grip and find more lap time and overtake people. And, I feel like I want to get back to where I was. And this is just the first step of many to getting back into the real thing. But I can't thank Simcraft enough for giving me this awesome simulator in my basement because it's really it's passed a lot of time during this pandemic, and I'm very grateful to have this down here. My wife, maybe not so much, but I've disconnected quite a bit over the last few weeks. But it's been.
Robert, I've got to ask you. Robert, got to ask you. A lot of people on Twitter asking about you using the brake bar effectively. It's not like an e-brake. I noticed it goes the opposite way when you're using it. Are you getting any feedback from that as well, as you would be able to do from a feedback steering wheel or a feedback set of pedals?
Yeah, we're getting there. Actually, I got the whole thing sent back to Simcraft between the last IndyCar race and this one. So there was a week off in between, and it actually broke. The weld broke because it's not designed to be using it the way that we are. So Simcraft has made it a lot more robust. We've beefed it up. It's gotten a lot more feeling. We changed the bump rubbers, a load cell, and it's nice little padding on the lever because I was getting bruises from driving an IndyCar around COTA. But no, it's good. I think everything is going to be such a moving target, and ultimately, I believe I need to get everything on the steering wheel in the future, just because reaction time of if something happens to get my hand off the steering wheel and onto the brake. I felt really bad on the restart there after the yellow. It all bunched up just before the last corner, and I got into the back of Tandy and spun him. And working with a German manufacturer with Mercedes for 6 years, never touch another one of your manufacturer cars. But and especially I didn't know what Tandy was doing in the race. I know he's like a world-renowned driver, and I was just like, I'm going to stay behind him, and hopefully I can learn something. And then I took him out before I got the chance to.
Robert, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. It's great to see the smile on your face again. You lost none of the competitive edge. Would love to see you back again. Be safe and look after yourself, won't you?
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Robert Wickens then joining us here in the Haggerty Broadcast Centre. Great run for him in the number 9 Pfaff Motorsport Motul Porsche. Thanks very much to Ben Constant-Juris and to Nick Damon, my 2 co-commentators. We'll wind up Michelin post-race tech now with a reminder that in a couple of weeks' time, we're at VIR doing all again with another 50-car field. We'll be back on Saturday for something a bit different. Not the Eurovision Song Contest, but something very close to it on RS1 at 8 o'clock UK time. And then Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, it's midweek motorsport. And then 2 weeks' time, back in sound and vision for another IMSA iRacing Pro Series event. Thanks to the guys in Boston. I'm John Hindhaugh. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.